If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Present.
Trustee Reinders.
Present.
Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky-Troicki.
Present. Next is community recognition. Assuming we don't have any tonight, we're going to move to amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, I have one.
Trustee
It's
Fialco?
my turn. Yes, I just would like to take out of the consent agenda the accounts payable, please, and make it either, it can be L1, that'll be fine.
Okay, any more amendments? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
That came out of the
I'll make that
consent.
Oh, yeah. So is there,
There's really no.
is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Consolino?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving on to minutes. Is there a motion to approve the December 11, 2024 Village Board meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Reinders?
I'll second.
Trustee Fialco? Any comments? Trustee Reinders? Trustee Fialco?
None.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
No.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is public comments. Just a reminder to please keep your comments to 3 minutes. First up, we have Mr. John Walters.
Hi, I was coming up here to thank Trustee Consolino and Trustee Fialco for their 4 years of service here and for representing all the citizens of Homer Glen. I know you've always were true to yourselves. I'll be forever grateful for the time that I was on the environmental committee with Trustee Consolino and the 3 years I spent on Homerfest with Dan Fialco. I want to thank Dan for all the times that I was at A&F and he asked all the questions that needed to be asked about the expenditures that this village was spending money on. And then repeating those questions here at the village board meeting, even though he knew the answers because he wanted the citizens of Homer Glen wanting to know where their money was going. They were truly great stewards for the taxpayers and citizens of Homer Glen. And I want to thank you for spending your 4 years here as trustees, and you will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perry, Scott Perry.
Good evening. I'm going to assume that everybody knows that the lawsuit on 143rd that was initiated by the county board members was dismissed. I think it was on Friday. There was a article in the Tribune about it. And what I'd like to do at this point is to advocate that we, as a village, tell the county that we want to take over that road. We're running out of options, and if the 143rd Street and Bell Road and 159th Street are really our commercial corridors. And, pardon me, in 159th Street, the way it was upgraded, has limited access, it has high speeds, and I think it disadvantages development of that commercial corridor because with limited access and the higher speeds, it makes it difficult to access businesses in that area. And really the same thing is happening with Bell Road. The design is fairly similar with raised medians, limited access. The design itself is really intended for moving traffic at fairly good speeds from place to place. It's not meant to be inviting to businesses. So we've got 2 out of 3 now that are not really well designed to accommodate commercial development. And 143rd is kind of like a trifecta. You know, it's going to be another one that is designed basically to move traffic from 355 to Orland. And, you know, how many times do we have to accommodate other communities and the needs of other communities before the needs of our village come into play? And you know, I would be likely that that Will County would not agree to allow us to have that road. But I think what that would do is it would set the stage for a lawsuit. And the you know, the argument of the lawsuit to me would be
30 seconds.
you know, you've disadvantaged our residents, you've disadvantaged our community 2 out of 3 times now. You know, how many times do we have to take it in the chin as a community before we have the right to have our say and have a road that we can develop on our own? Particularly that road has a lot of residential on it as well that's going to be impacted. It's just, to me, it's just a terrible thing to do. And I don't live along that road. I live over on 167th Street.
I'm just going to pause you for 1 second. Would you like an additional 3 minutes?
I'm pretty well wrapped up.
Okay.
So I'm not, you know, I'm not one of the people that are going to get badly burned by this. I just look at it and say, I think it stinks for the entire community. 2 out of 3 of our commercial development corridors have been impacted, and a third's about to be impacted. The residents, I feel bad for the people along Bell Road. Every time I drive by there, the area is just, you know, just terrible for the residents. A lot of bad impact, and it's going to, even when it's done, it's going to not be great. So anyway, I think we ought to advocate. I'm advocating we take that road over. I know it's expensive, but you know.
Thank you. Mr. Michael Bonomo?
Good evening, board, and you know, in case I don't have a chance, happy Easter to everybody when the time comes. Hope everyone has a safe and good Easter. You know, my point of coming up is everyone probably knows, you know, I lost an election and will no longer be a Homer Township trustee. But while I was a trustee, I took it upon myself to take on the seniors and doing different events for them. And the village wasn't silent. They helped out in many occasions, and you know, thanks to Mayor, she did some things that helped out and giving us accommodations when we needed it, and through events at Homerfest, which I'll mention in a minute, you know, helping out with that as well. But most importantly, I want to thank an outgoing trustee, Dan Fialco. Being on the board with the Homerfest, he gave me the chance to bring the seniors in the limelight of the fest, having senior days, and then on top of that, we brought in the veterans and had a veterans event on top of senior days. And you know, without that, it couldn't have been done. You know, obviously, the village has to you know, make the room, and they did. But being Dan in charge of, you know, the Homerfest in the way he was, he gave me the chance to, you know, go for that opportunity. And Jennifer, I wanted, and again, it's her last meeting as well, and she's always come to our side when we need be, and we try to do everything in return. You know, we all live in the same community. We're going to be crossing paths with each other. So whether you're on an elected position or a public or just a private citizen, we all live together. We have to, you know, act civil. And I think we need to start doing that in a better way. But most importantly, I want to thank the 2 of them for everything they've done for us. They no longer will be on the board, but they are going to be visible. You know, Dan obviously never likes to go away, so he'll stick out. You know, but. The biggest thing is I think they deserve a round of applause for all the hard work they've done for Homer Glen, and I think they should be appreciated. And thanks to the board for allowing me to do what I did within the village. So with the seniors and doing the veterans events. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bonomo. Mr. Mark Viz.
Good evening. So my comment is in regard to agenda item L2, which is the ordinance involving the proposed villas of Hidden Valley. My wife and I built our house in Hidden Valley in 2002. We raised our 5 children here. The backyard of our property abuts the southern boundary of the eastern parcel of the property that is the subject of the proposed ordinance. Whereas we agree that rezoning the affected property from commercial to residential is generally a good thing, we still have significant concerns about what Martha's proposed and apparently what the Plan Commission accepted on March 20th, 2025. I'd like to highlight a few of those concerns. To be clear, our request to the village board is that the current ordinance be voted down not as a no, not ever vote, but as a no, not yet vote, meaning that we believe the village and Martha should do more to address not only the issues that I'm bringing up, but also the issues that a lot of my neighbors brought up at that meeting back on March 20th. Given the architectural homogeneity and nearly identical elevation renderings of all proposed units, the density of proposed units is too high and will have a cookie-cutter look that is not the essence of Homer Glen's character. The high density of units will make these new neighborhoods look like the typical drab, overly dense, and uninspired housing developments that we see in and around Homer Glen. If the density must remain as proposed, however, we request that the village board demand that Martha provide greater architectural diversity, perhaps a wider color palette, and elevations that at least reduce the cookie-cutter look and feel of the units, of the proposed units. As an alternative, if the proposed units are allowed to all generally look the same, we request that the number of proposed units be decreased, as lowering the density of the units will help to alleviate the cookie-cutter repetitious look of what is planned. Finally, setting aside Outlot E for a park is a very bad idea. First and foremost, because of potential safety issues. Citing a park where young children will likely be playing so close to a major 4-lane highway, where the 45-mile-per-hour speed limit is rarely enforced, which I know because I look out there every day from the north side of our house, is not good planning. Have Martha or the village analyze the siting of this park in the context of consensus standards of care that address play area safety? Have Martha or the village determined that what Martha is proposing by way of berms or other barriers is sufficient to establish a safe play area? If not, the siting of a play area in Outlot E should be categorically denied. High-density, cookie-cutter housing developments destroy the rural character of our
30
village
seconds.
and will make it look more like neighboring villages where huge, multi-lane, impassable highways destroy the essence of the area. We ask that the village board compel Martha to address these and other issues before any ordinances are approved. Our position is not anti-development, rather it's smart development that retains our hometown's essence and character. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Klein.
Yeah, Matt Klein. I'm the attorney for Martha Development for the Hidden Valley Project. I don't know if you wish me to speak now.
We'll call you
or-
back up when L2 comes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe this is Pam Hammond? Is it? Okay.
Hi, I live in the Hidden Valley subdivision, and I'm here regarding the villas of Hidden Valley. I also feel that the density is too high. There's too many units planned for the parcel of land. I also feel that at the beginning of the subdivision, that maybe it could be made to look more in tune with the subdivision that is already there. Also, if they could please take in consideration that we've been in these, that they're affecting the home values of our homes that are already established in the subdivision. And I also feel that the townhomes being 50 feet off of our back lot line is too dense. It's too close to the single family homes that are already there, that are on at least half-acre sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to reports and communications from President and other officers. Village Manager Joe Baber.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting on behalf of the Behavioral Health and Addiction Recovery Committee. A week ago Saturday, the committee held a panel discussion which included engaging conversations that applies to resources available to those in need. I would like to thank all the panelists who participated in the event. They included Dr. Kim Snow, she is the Director of Beyond Healing Counseling, Tracy Curtis, Domestic Violence Crisis Center of South Suburbia, Aaron Shea, Beyond Acceptance Therapy, Maria Kroner, Substance Abuse Beyond Healing, Melissa Howard, Music Therapy Beyond Play, Patty Johnstone, Director of the Living Room, who is also in the next few weeks having an open house in Orland Park, Mark Raber, Al-Anon, and a resident with personal loss, and Dr. Tony Dielich, retired pediatrician, Patty Tucker, Narcan Training. A video of this event is currently running on our YouTube and Channel 6 media sites. It has a lot of good information regarding available resources in the area. I know this sometimes carries a stigma. The attendance by residents was limited, but I think that these resources are now available on our social media sites for people to access. Also, I would like to thank the Village Wellness Committee for organizing the annual Village Health Provider Screening event last week. 75% of our staff or covered dependents attended. Again, I'd like to thank and recognize members Lisa Kopis, Mike Pierce, Amy Blank, Ashley Kolowski, Dan Wittick, and Brittany Para. Also, as a reminder, the ongoing food drive for the fish pantry is ongoing until Friday. The trailer is located out in Village Hall. On a personal note, this afternoon I experienced something that kind of bothered me, both as village manager and a resident. I was shopping Homer Glen at Meyer, and I encountered a group of young men on electric bikes in front of the Meyer. I've run into them before, usually in the evenings when I do my shopping after work. And they came into the store and proceeded to jump on the disability carts that are available, the electric disability carts that are available for shoppers. I confronted the one gentleman. Of course, he got ignorant with me. I didn't identify who I was. I just looked at him, and it was just disturbing. I think parents, I ask that you know where your kids are at, what they're doing out there. Our Meyer especially, and I've seen it with some of our other stores, have turned into a gathering place for the kids that have, I guess nothing else to do. But it was just, I found it very disturbing that they would find activities like this acceptable. So I ask parents to keep an eye on their kids a little bit. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Village Trustees. Trustee Consolino.
Okay, since I'm pretty sure that tonight will be my last village board meeting as a village trustee, I put together a nice lengthy one for you guys. Will County Clerk will certify the election on the 22nd, and any elected candidates can be sworn in immediately afterwards. So that's why I'm assuming tonight's our last meeting. It's been a very long and grueling 4 years on this board. I've sat through 2 administrations, but I've learned a lot and I've witnessed a lot. Once you see things from this side of the fence, you can never unsee them. I'm very grateful to the voters who chose me to represent them in April of 2021. They gave me the opportunity to put my voice into action. I was elected during a deadly pandemic and an economic crisis. My voters voted for me to be vocal on this board and hold our publicly elected officials accountable, and then to force our village to be more transparent. I did the best that I could to honor them. My voters wanted fiscal responsibility, budget cuts, no new taxes, and no tax increases. They wanted alternative funding sources that didn't burden the residents of Homer Glen. I did that. They wanted wasteful spending to stop. I stopped it, or at least I did when I presided on this board with other fiscally responsible trustees. Majority rule changed on this board in 2023, and my voice no longer mattered. When I voted no to spending that I believed to be wasteful, I was mocked, hissed at, and harassed. Behavior that was both unethical and unprofessional. However, I still held true to my convictions and voted no regardless of the immature and bullying by my fellow board members. I also voted no on meeting minutes that I felt were insufficient and did not provide a proper record of what was stated or legislated during our meetings. I again met the same uncivilized behavior by my board members. I stuck to my campaign promises, and I prevented high-density housing and HUD housing from being built. I said no to granting developers free rein and allowed high-density housing in alleyways in what was supposed to be a family-friendly town center, because that's what people in this community voted for me to be in office for. I never backed down on my campaign promises. I managed to do all of the above while people on this board and their savage campaign supporters tried to paint me as a difficult, toxic, and negative person these past few years. To that, I proudly say it was a lie. I was doing my job. I did my due diligence. For 4 years, I was never a rubber stamper for my peers. I voted on behalf of my residents, not on behalf of elected officials or any special interests. The same cannot be said of some of the other elected officials. It's with a very heavy heart that my only regret while on this board is the time that it took away from my family. My daughter was 8 years old when I was sworn in. She's now 12. My husband deployed a lot with the military during that time period. Precious moments with them were missed while I volunteered my time with this village. The $6,000 a year salary that trustees receive really only equates to $5,025 after taxes. And as my daughter will tell you, I probably only earn 25 cents an hour. We don't do this for the money, or at least we're not supposed to. I've listened to current board members whine that they don't get paid enough. I've listened to our clerk complain that we make more than she does. We don't. Let me say that again. We don't do it for the money. We do it because it's our civic duty, and we do it out of our selflessness for our community. I chaired our Public Safety and Services Committee for 2 years. I chaired our Environment Committee for 4 years. I briefly chaired our Community Safeguard Committee until a new board dissolved it without even knowing that it existed. I do have a few bones to pick while I give what I consider to be my last speech as your trustee. I've put up with a lot of nonsense and a lot of abuse the past 4 years, more than what any woman or an elected official who is simply doing their job should have to put up with. The nonsense was all politicking and campaigning, and the elected officials and their family members and their friends who did it are deplorable human beings, in my opinion. I've been called horrible names while sitting on this board by other elected officials. I've been screamed at, shut down, and cut off when it was my turn to speak per parliamentary rules. I've been heckled and verbally assaulted by the mayor's parents when leaving board meetings. Because of these uncivil deplorables, I can't bring my daughter around the village hall. Because of these evil and unhinged individuals, my beautiful and sensitive autistic daughter has been traumatized at board meetings and village-sponsored events, so much so that I've had to even file police reports with my daughter. This is the thanks that I received for doing my job and being an honest trustee, and not an atypical politician. This is the thanks my husband receives for supporting me while being active military and as a brave combat veteran who selflessly serves our country. I can't even permit my husband to come to our meetings and events to witness this disgusting politics. Why put my amazing family through any further abuse by a bunch of uneducated and uncivilized hillbillies? I also want to point out that I've witnessed a lot of politicking and exploitation by our elected officials when it comes to special needs children and veterans over the years. I've never hoarded out my family for votes, and I never will. That's the difference between me and them. I'm proud of my family. I'm proud to have a daughter who is autistic. I'm proud to have a military spouse. I am appalled by what I've witnessed, and these people have absolutely no shame, and I have no problem saying it. Homer Glen, I'm holding my head high, and I'm walking away from this position without bitterness that I have seen so many other elected officials do. I watched grown men on this dais cry and pound their chests when they lost or had to step down from their seats. I watched them yell, "The people got it wrong." This is the idiot mentality that I've had to tolerate for the past 4 years. And like former trustee Beth Rogers said to trustee Rose Reinders 2 years ago, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be watching from the sidelines. I'll be pointing out the wasteful spending, the lies, the patronage, the nepotism, and the lack of transparency. The difference is I won't be voting on it. I will get to be vocal publicly where none of our elected officials will legally be permitted to stop me, harass me, or shut me up. It's kind of pathetic when you realize you have more rights as a private citizen than you do when you're an elected official. I'm also going to be applying to stay with the Environment Committee as a member. I've witnessed pretty much every elected official jump ship and abandon their committees as soon as they are no longer in office here. I've decided not to be like them. I care about my village and I care about my committee. It's up to the mayor if she will allow me to be a member or not. Despite the nonstop abuse as a trustee on this board, I'm very grateful to the people I have met and worked with along the way. I've truly had the pleasure of working with some absolutely amazing staff over the years. It was heartbreaking to lose some of them over the years, and it's heartbreaking to say goodbye now. Our village staff are the heartbeat of our community. They make or break our municipality. Elected officials are just nobodies. They are just mouthpieces who hold the purse strings. They're not qualified to run a village. Staff members are. Hiring competent employees is what makes a municipality run successfully like a well-oiled machine. Competent employees provide the blood, sweat, and tears along with the structure that spends our tax dollars exactly where they need to be. When we hire someone because of patronage or nepotism, we're not doing our due diligence. We're hiring a cancer from within. That cancer then spreads like wildfire. Its incompetence destroys our community and it wastes our hard-earned tax dollars. I witnessed both sides of this while sitting on this board. I think it's also important to recognize and point out the amazing, selfless people I have met who have volunteered hours of their time for our community, who never get acknowledged or thanked. Instead, they get bashed for whatever side of the political fence they are on. I'm blessed that I became friends with a lot of these people, people who sacrificed their reputations simply by doing what they believed was good to help the community as a whole. Politics and ugly politicians don't care about doing the right thing. Thank you all for persevering and helping our community regardless of this ugliness. You are a bright light and you inspire others. Never let them discourage you from what you know in your heart is the right thing to do. Homer Glen, honestly, I couldn't be any prouder to have been a trustee. It was an awesome accomplishment that very few people get to experience, and I will carry this experience with me always. I pray that the grief that my family had to go through for it will make us even stronger than what we already are. I pray it teaches my daughter to stand tall in the face of adversity and for her to use her voice no matter what life throws at her. I believe that everything happens for a reason, just like I believe I was elected to serve a purpose, and I am now happily following a new one. Thank you with all my heart to my family and my friends who have had my back while I presided over this board. I could not have survived this without my tribe holding me up from behind the scenes. Without their support, I probably would have caved on my principles or quit at some point. Instead, I can sit here with a great deal of pride and say this: I never changed who I was while I sat on this board. Others have. My integrity is intact. My soul is intact. I am not a politician. I am a mom and wife first, as well as I am an outstanding citizen of this community. I did not let these people and their politics change my priorities or change my principles, even when they publicly lied about me or slandered and defamed my character. I never took bribes. I never conducted backroom deals or meetings because I believe in transparency. Backroom deals only benefit the liars making the deals. I never voted how my peers wanted me to. I voted based on my research, my voters, my conscience, and with common sense. Others have not. I never publicly displayed my personal politics or personal life choices as a village trustee. We are by law elected to be nonpartisan on this board. Other board members have displayed repeatedly that they can't do this. I have no regrets on any of my legislative decisions. I owe nobody anything. My conscience is clean. My voting record speaks for itself. Others I've worked with on this board cannot say the same. I never made promises I couldn't keep or had no control over. I never promised to lower our water bills. I never promised a tax levy was only temporary. I never lied about signature being forged. I never lied about the misconduct I was either a victim to or witnessed while I was on this board. I've expressed my serious concerns repeatedly for lack of oversight and the loss of much-needed checks and balances by our board and staff. What happens with that lack of integrity is no longer on my head, but it's on the heads of each of the board members. For the record, I have never voted yes on the hundreds of thousands of dollars we have paid to the law firm. I want to personally thank Trustee Dan Fialco and former Trustee Ruben Pasmino for all the forward planning with the water treatment plant, our collaborative legislative actions, the additional amenities we provided to residents, and more importantly, our cost-saving teamwork I experienced with them. We doubled our surplus dollars during a deadly pandemic by over $20 million. Our current board has only added several million dollars to that amount while spending millions of our dollars. I call what we did fiscal responsibility. Working with Trustees Fialco and Pasmino demonstrated to me that good and efficient government is possible, even when faced with constant adversity from elected officials and sometimes your staff. I also want to thank them for always being both professional and respectful of decorum and parliamentary rule. That's something our board desperately lacks now. Working with these gentlemen was a pleasure, and it was sincerely a benefit to our community as a whole. Thank you both so much for your hard work and your dedication to the village. Lastly, I want to wish our two newcomers the very best with their term in office. I hope that they will not be rubber stampers or cave to peer pressure. I hope that they will take the time to read through the 500 to 1,000 page packets and that they will ask questions of our staff when necessary. I hope that they will listen to our residents and address their concerns. I hope they do the right thing even when no one is looking. Integrity is everything. And when you sell your soul to the devil, he always comes to collect. I wish you well. And again, I'm very grateful to have served. So God bless you all. Thank you.
Trustee Fialco.
Thank you, President Trike. First off, I'd like to say congratulations to Mike Lepore, Rose Reinders, and Nick Muller for winning the election. Mike Lepore and Nick Mueller will be taking these two seats somewhere in the configuration. The next thing I'd like to say is we were noticed in the patch this morning. I don't know if Lieutenant Piazza is here. I didn't see him on there. Thanks, Pete. Hey, Pete, we were ranked number 7 out of, there were approximately 234 towns that were compared, and we are 7th on the list as the most safest. So thank you, Pete, and your crew for doing that for all of us and keeping us safe. Moving on, April 17th. What I wanted to say, though, I should have started with, under 65 ILCS 5/3.1-10-15 allows for the new board to come in, even though when we came in, we did not take our seats till May. It was that second Wednesday in May. And there was cake and all kinds of celebration. The other group was going out. We were coming in. But what the statute allows from Chapter 24 is when certification takes place, which will be on the 22nd of April, it allows for the new people coming in to be sworn in on that very day, if they wish, and they then become the new trustees. So at this point, I just looked at what took place last year, and I'm assuming this will be our last meeting. So that's why we're all kind of going into a little bit of detail here towards the end. The other thing is our anniversary for the village is on April 17th. So happy anniversary to our village on April 17th. I believe we're 24 years old now. So the next thing I'd like to say is thank you to the residents of Homer Glen for allowing me to represent you for the last 4 years. I've always thought of myself not as a politician, but as a representative. And for the people that put their necks out, like Nick and Mike that are coming in, and Curtis, and Mr. McNaughton and Rose, and our village president and Sue, this job here is a very difficult job. You don't do it because you're here for the money, like Trustee Castellino said. You do it because you have the love for your community. And you don't really expect anything in return. except for you're kind of helping out. You're the voice piece for the residents at this point. And I've always kept that in mind. We ran under a policy that was people, not politics, and I have held firm to that belief that the people are more important than any part of politics. So with that said, I have met many, many fine people coming through here from our first village manager, which was Matt Walsh, and then we had Carmen Morella, and now we've got Joe Baber. We had the clerk, it was actually Christina Neitsky-Troike was our clerk when I came in, and now we have Candace. I've worked under or with Ruben Pazmino as a trustee, Nicole Laha, Beth Rogers, Rose Reinders, my sidekick Jennifer Castellino. We came in together at the same time, and so did all three of us came in together at the same time. So it's bittersweet. Not that I didn't run again, and the thing is, I figure it's time for some young blood in here, and for other people to step up to the plate and to kind of step into the kitchen and see how the sausage is made. I only say that because we had a pizza place, and that was a common thing that was sometimes said. But realistically, you don't get to really understand the dynamics of it unless you're actually in the seat and see what goes on. I mean, a lot of things go on at the meetings, but there are a lot of things that go on outside of the meetings. And I was the chair of admin and finance when we first came in here, and I did the best I could do. We had been we adopted the road district at that time. And when we adopted the road district, that was not complete yet. So between the transfer of the old guard and the new guard, I guess you could call it at that time, we had a lot of work to do. And so under admin and finance, we really tightened up the belt. We were buying used lawnmowers. We did not know what we were going to be up against. And so that was a very challenging time with admin and finance, but we did very well. We never raised taxes. We did put we put two places into some of that gaming that came in, like at Lenny's Gas and Wash. That was part of not having the raised taxes, but yet it was in where the gaming went, it was kind of in the outside corner of the village. So it really didn't affect things, and then Thornton was going to be putting gaming in across the street anyway. So we tried to roll up our sleeves, do the best we could do without raising taxes, and keeping true to the residents of this community who elected us to represent them. And I think we've done a good job. And then the second thing that I did, I had Homerfest under my belt for quite some time. Some huge changes were made. I was fortunate enough to work with a team that was put together after 3 people quit, though, because some changes were being made. But nevertheless, we put together a great team. We did a lot of good things with Homerfest, and I hope that continues throughout the years coming up. But I think right now it's time for me to take a little respite and to relax a little bit, and to go out knowing that I was very pragmatic in my approach to everything to do with the village. I never took and just did something. I researched things, and that's what I told to one of the new trustees coming in. He was asking me a question. I said, your meetings will only be good as the time you put in. So you can be a trustee, come up here and just show up to the meetings and not read your packets and just vote. Or you can be that trustee that reads the packets, digs into it, asks the questions, go out to the sites, go look at the sites that we're talking about or that are in the packet, and be that trustee that cares for the residents. That's why we're put here, is to look out for the residents. And so for me, it's bittersweet, but I'm very happy. I'm very honored that you, the people of the residents of this community, had elected me to represent you, and I can't thank you enough for that. So thank you very much, Homer Glen.
Trustee Reinders.
Mayor, I don't have a report tonight, but I would just like to make a couple of remarks. First of all, I would just like to thank the residents for honoring me with another 4 years to be able to serve my community. It's been my honor for the past 4 years, and I look forward to working with a lot of our residents in the future. Also, I would like to thank Trustee Fialco and Trustee Consolino for their service to our community. I wish you both well in your future endeavors, and hopefully you get to spend more time with your families. And that's all I have, Mayor.
It was very nice. Thank you, Trustee Reinders. Trustee Stylen?
Thank you. You're going to hear some of this all over again. Congratulations, Trustee Reinders, on your reelection to the board, and also congratulations out there to Mike Lepore and Nick Mueller on their election. I feel very good about the makeup of the new board and look forward to seeing your accomplishments and working with you as a fellow board member for a few more meetings and in my capacity when I take on my role as Township Supervisor. I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you, Trustee Fialco and Trustee Consolino, for your 4 years of service to the village board. Serving on the board takes more time than most people realize. Many long village board meetings, some going past midnight, with executive sessions, chairing a committee and participating in other committee meetings, attending special meetings, and reading all of the materials for each meeting. And if this isn't enough, never being able to please everyone and facing public criticism when you don't. Thank you again for stepping up to do what you believe in. Even if I always don't agree, you gave up a significant part of your life to serve the community, and I applaud that. Next week, we will celebrate our 24th anniversary of incorporation. The committee, the events department is, the Community Development Committee and the events department are looking for ideas of ways to celebrate our 25th anniversary year, which begins after April 17th. And if you have ideas, please contact Dan Waddick and share them. The Community Development Committee will also have a special meeting on April 15th due to a lack of quorum for our previous meeting. Coming up, we have a community-wide garage sale, and we're also seeking sponsorships for Homerfest and other events. Sponsors help us put on events and save our taxpayer dollar money, whatever. And thank you all.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. Trustee Mason?
Wowzer. Not sure how to follow up on a lot of that. First and foremost, I would like to thank Trustee Fialco for his heartfelt comments, even stating that we're 7th in safety and out of 234 villages and towns, and the Will County Sheriff's Department is doing a great job. I agree with you, Trustee Fialco, that you need to do your homework. You have to read the packages. It makes a difference. The other part of that was, I'm not sure about the rendition of our village. Sorry that Trustee Consolino feels that way about leaving our village, the board, and the residents. It's with sorrow that I had to listen to some of that. The third thing I'd like to do is welcome Trustee Reinders back, as well as Nick and Mike Lepore and Nick Mueller. I'm going to shorten my report based on the timing and the departures tonight now. But one thing I did want to talk about is some house cleaning. The elections are over, and there are many political signs still cluttering our roadways and easements and right-of-ways. Most of them are from one particular candidate, and we pretty much all know who that is, so we don't need to mention the name of the person/persons. I have been in contact with the ordinance officer and have had discussions with the village on this topic. We do have a grace period of 7 days after the election. We are now 9 days post-election. Yesterday and today I drove around. There are signs everywhere. We can implement, or should be implementing, a citation or fine. I know we haven't had the need for this in the past, but maybe that time is coming to fruition. I have seen signs on Parker Road and Route 6, Shy Bloom, Bruce Road, 167th, Haas, Will Cook, many others. They're still out there as of an hour ago. So if you please still have signs littering the village, please make arrangements as soon as possible to retrieve these and maybe even recycle them, but that is up to you. That's the house cleaning item. As far as the nitrous oxide or NO2, we had our meeting at Public Safety and Public Service on the 2nd. I'm going to save that for a later date. I wanted to thank Mr. Westcott for being instrumental in keeping the village informed and up to date on the Bell Road project. He has also been updating the village website for closures, disruptions, and repair of Bell Road. I would recommend that everyone refer to the village website and for official activities and what is transpiring in pretty much a real-time real time with that. With that being said, I just really wanted to thank Brett for his persistence on this topic. I believe Trustee Fiocco covered the 7th in the 234 cities, but as far as the Will County Sheriff's Report goes, it has been pretty quiet overall over the last month. Thanks to Lieutenant Pete Piazza and his team for keeping us all safe and secure. And once again, welcome back from Quantico. Thank you, sir. Last, I wanted to give a report on the grants for portable traffic messaging boards. The Fed has made some changes, and we are putting in for grants for several of these units. With that being said, this aid is through our Director of EMA, Ron Cuss, and we have put in for this in the past, but everything was put on hold through the national funding level. I believe that we can revisit this by June or July, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have some equipment that is in need of replacement or is just obsolete. These new units will have better data output, speed monitoring, and message capabilities, and are portable. Thus, we can keep everyone abreast as this emerges and comes to execution. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. Village Clerk?
I don't really have a report, but I wish Trustee Fiocco and Trustee Consolino the best after today.
Thank you. Village Attorney?
Yes, just briefly, the village manager had asked that I continue to update everyone on the status of that 143rd Street lawsuit, which most of you know. I know that the initial speaker today in public comment shared with you all what most of us know, which is that it was dismissed with prejudice in early April. Just want to give you all a recap. Previously, the court had ruled and had appointed a special prosecutor, and it was going to be seeking information and potential candidates for that role. On January 30th, the court reversed itself, and pretty much what the court said was that the Will County commissioners that were named as plaintiffs in that lawsuit were not acting in their official capacity. Whether or not people agree with that or not, that's how the court ruled. Because of that, the lawsuit, the folks that were bringing the lawsuit had indicated that they may be seeking leave to file an amended complaint. An amended complaint was not filed. Because an amended complaint was not filed, the parties in that lawsuit rested on their pleadings, and the court dismissed the matter with prejudice. Now, oftentimes that's a tactic that attorneys use from a strategy standpoint. When an attorney believes that the lawsuit as pled named properly folks in their official capacity, they rest on their pleadings. What that means is when the court dismisses it, then it gives those folks the opportunity to appeal it to the Illinois Appellate Court. Now, I don't know if that's what their strategy was, but that is a potential strategy that may be at play with those folks that were handling that lawsuit. But as it stands right now, that lawsuit, certainly as it existed in the Circuit Court of Will County, has been dismissed with prejudice. Secondly, we're always working on, or the mayor has asked me to give a little bit of update on that House Bill 1397. As of today, when I checked the Illinois General Assembly today, currently it's still where it was. It's still within the Rules Committee, and there was no other notations that were noted. Now, there could be some notations that have not been recorded and of record yet that just haven't hit the system, but that's all we have at this point for that. And Madam Mayor, I have nothing further to add.
Did you want to update him with the Farm Bureau, or is that nothing yet?
Yes, the mayor has asked to. I was forwarded a communication from someone in the Will County Farm Bureau. The Will County Farm Bureau is a organization with membership that I didn't directly speak with them, but I got a copy of the actual communication, the voice message, which shared that they support this board's position and the corporate authorities and the mayor's position, which always has been that 143rd Street should not be taken via eminent domain by the Will County Department of Transportation, and that correspondence was just basically that the Will County Farm Bureau and their membership support that, okay, that support this board's position that it should not be taken via eminent domain, and that they were going to be doing whatever they could to assist in efforts to stop it, okay? So those are the only things, ma'am, that I have to add for today.
Okay, thank you. Public Safety? you have anything? Nope. All right, that leaves me. Couple things. Yes, I'm very proud that we were the 7th safest city. I wish we were the 1st, but it could have been that dry erase marker case that brought us down to 7th. I'm not really sure. But I'm very proud of the Will County Sheriff's Office for keeping us safe, so greatly appreciate you guys and everything you guys do. There was a comment made earlier by a resident that he wishes for civility. I couldn't agree with you more. I truly believe with these new board members coming aboard, Mike Lepore, Nick Muller, congratulations, and Rose Reinders retaining her seat. I truly feel that we will have civility along with the township. Congratulations to Supervisor Sue Stylen, John Robinson, Sarah Palermo, Tammy O'Brien, Keith Gray, Ken Marson, Christina Sievers, and Don Melody. I'm very proud of everything that you guys accomplished. You went through hell and back, but you survived, and I cannot wait to work with each and every single one of you. And for those candidates who ran but unfortunately lost, I'm also proud of you. There were a lot of attacks back and forth. I wish it will stop. We need to have some sort of, as Trustee Bonomo said and stated, we need to have civility and we need to bring it back together at some point. Couple little updates. There's been some graffiti at the parks. If it is a village park, please contact the village. Please do not tag me in a Facebook post. Contact the village right away. Some of the comments that were put, that were graffitied, spray painted, were not good words spray painted, and we need to get on top of that right away. As of May 31st, there will be 2 Planning Commission seats available. So if anybody's interested in joining the Planning Commission, please submit a resume along with filling out an application. As of today, there is a Homerfest committee seat available as well. So if you're interested in joining the Homerfest committee, please let me know. As of April 7th, I did receive Trustee McNaughton's resignation. So there will be a second seat available on this board. I have not received Trustee Stylen's resignation at this moment. So right now, as of April 30th, Trustee McNaughton will be serving his last day. So I do have 60 days from his formal resignation of a seat to fill the spot. So if there's anybody interested in joining this civil board, please submit a resume to the village. With that being said, 143rd Street is always at the top of our mind. Now that the lawsuit has been dismissed, that does open the door to allow me to have discussions with Jennifer Bettino Tarrant, who unfortunately we could not discuss anything at the time as the lawsuit was going on. Now that that's over, hopefully that opens the door to some communication. Where are we at? Joe, I would like, if it's possible, when you stated about the disability carts, I think we need to have a meeting with the sheriff's office in Meyer now. It's come to that point now where they've crossed the line. They did cross the line a long time ago by the comments and remarks they made as customers enter the building, but I think at some point we need to take action on that now. What else? A couple clarifications. There's been some comments made that, that this current board had put more gaming parlors out there and we upped the tobacco licenses. That is absolutely false. In fact, I denied a gaming license that came before this board and excuse me, did you guys have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, do you have a pen I could borrow?
Sure, here you go. So there was a gaming petitioner that came in. I denied his application. They challenged my denial, came to the board, and were approved. So no, there were no additional gaming licenses given by me. Also, tobacco licenses, we made our tobacco ordinance stricter. We're not allowing any more tobacco licensed shops within this village. So let's put that rumor to bed. I would like to thank Trustee Fialco for his 4 years. It has been a pleasure to serve with you. Didn't always agree, but I actually can appreciate that because I love when people challenge me on different things, and you did a great job at that. So I truly appreciate that. And I do wish you the best moving forward. I hope you still hang around for Homerfest. and whatnot. So I do have just a couple more things to add. I don't think that this board or any of the future board members are disgusting hillbillies. I think you're actually great, fine people. I think you're going to do amazing jobs in your seats. I think making statements as such proves the character of each and every individual here on this board. I want to thank Kurt Mason for having such nice comments to say, Trustee Steilen, Clerk Bilski, Rose, Trustee Reinders, and Trustee Fialko for your nice comments today. With that being said, we're going to move on to legislation and action items. It's kind of L1A, I guess you can call it. Consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of March 29th, 2025 through April 10th, 2025 in the amount of $214,996.70. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Reinders, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason, any discussion?
Yes.
Trustee Reinders?
No, I have nothing, Mayor.
Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Fialko?
Yes, just so you know, the phone call went out today. I was looking at page 3, and I asked Joe, so Joe, I'm guessing will get everybody the answer for it. It was I mean, it was hard to understand exactly what took place because it said Kubota vehicle maintenance, and it was $4,600 approximately. So the way I looked at it was, well, if that's a regular four-wheeler Kubota, that's almost half the price of what one of those may cost. But nevertheless, it's not that important, just so we know what took place there. And Joe should have the answer for that. But the other thing that I had a question about is on the very back page.
Dan, can you give us the correct page, please? Not to interrupt you.
Yeah, page 3, that,
Page 3.
no.
We're on page 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's just above page 3. On page 2, it's the third item down, Burris Equipment, $4,596.
Thank you.
Yeah, and obviously I won't be here for that, but if you guys get an answer, I'm sure you'll appreciate that from Joe. The next thing that I had was, now my packet, the very last page says legislative, right? I don't know if everybody else's says legislative.
No, I didn't get it.
No.
But nevertheless, it says $18,000, but this packet here says from March 29th through April 10th, and this bill is for March 28th. So usually we separate legislative, usually we separate the attorney's bill from the packet, and this time it seems to be attached. I don't know if I'm reading it right or not.
No, mine doesn't say.
Mine doesn't say that, Dan. It's for the fireworks, the Ace Pyro LLC is what I have it
And
as.
that's what mine says too. There's nothing about legislative.
Yeah.
Mine says legislative, then it says Homerfest Fund, $18,000. So I was not sure what that was for.
Trustee Fialko?
You got a typo.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yes.
It's handwritten.
Yeah, right. That's the same thing that I got. That's why I asked the question.
I don't have that.
It's not on the back page, it's on the flip side of this page, on the flip side of the back page.
Ah.
Would you like Lisa to help explain?
Well, one, it's for the 28th, and this packet says it's from the 29th of March to April 10th, not the 28th of March. So, and then it says Homerfest Fund, so I'm not sure where that came from. And I asked, but I wasn't able to get an answer right away. So.
Is legislative possibly meaning that it had to come before us for approval?
All right, so I'm just going to, Trustee Fialko, are you done with your comments?
With the concerns I have on this, yes.
Yeah, I was going to turn it over to Mr. Sawyers and/or Lisa.
We're actually trying to avoid a mix-up because that was approved at the previous meeting through a legislative action. We don't cut checks for legislative action items before they're approved, so we thought that we would segregate legislative items, which typically are the attorney bills or any other legislative action item, separately. We cut those checks on the Friday after the previous meeting, and then everything thereafter is presented like our typical schedule of accounts payable. There was some issues with seeing bills commingled that were approved in a previous meeting's legislative items. So we're just trying to avoid the confusion about something that was previously approved and then it's appearing in a later meeting.
Right. Does that help clarify that,
Well,
trustee
I
Fielder?
think the thing that threw it off is it said legislative on it, on that page before it, and then it was combined with Homerfest Fund, but then on the other side it says for fireworks. I'm assuming that's the deposit for the fireworks.
Unfortunately, that was flipped when it was produced for copy. It should be the other way. You should see the bill and then the summation of the legislative action items that were approved at the previous meeting. So I understand your confusion. It was flipped in the assembly.
Now, that $18,000 doesn't look to be as part of the number on the front of the sheet.
No.
Right. Okay.
It was approved at,
Understood.
yeah.
If you're, may I, Mayor?
Oh, are you done, trustee Fialko?
Yes.
I'm going to go
If
around,
you-
because I already, let me go back around, hold on.
Right.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Trustee Reinders? Trustee Mason?
Yeah, it was 36,000 is what we agreed upon, and this was half of it. This was the 18,000 that we had in the A and F. And now it makes sense that it should have been flipped. When you put the packet together, that said legislative on the backside, which it should have been the first side, because we had done this already in a prior meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for the clarification, Jen.
All right. Any additional comments? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Motion carries. Moving on to 1B, consider for approval an ordinance granting approval of a variance to permit a mix of masonry and fiber cement siding materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of exterior construction standards requiring the stone or brick material cover 100% of the aggregate total area of the first floor or story exterior walls exclusive of doors, windows, and associated trim 75-67A, applicably in scope, type of building or structure of the code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential District at 15652 West Mallard Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Reinders, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason, Trustee Reinders?
I read through this and, today's designs call for different materials. And you're seeing more and more cement board, fiber boards. You're seeing less and less of a lot of masonry. You're seeing more stone. So for me, this building seems to have like a balance of the newer type of materials. It has a little bit of masonry and it has a little bit of fiber. So aesthetically, I think the materials match the design of the home, so I really have no problem with this.
Trustee Mason?
I agree with Trustee Reinders. I went through the packet. It doesn't look like there was a huge outpouring or anything like that. And I look at the other homes in the area. They're big, beautiful homes. One of them is brick, one of them siding. It looks like it's a mixed materials type of area. And if you look at this home here, I think he's trying to take modern and rustic and put those two together, and I think it looks beautiful.
Trustee Consolino?
No, I'm happy with the masonry looking like it's brick material, so that way it's consistent, I think, with.
Trustee Stylen?
I think I wasn't done, but that's
Oh,
fine.
right.
That's okay.
You stopped. Are you done? Edward, go. You have the floor. So you are done? Okay. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I think it's a beautiful home. I did check. There is a letter from the homeowners association that they approved the design, so there's no complaints with the neighbors. So I approve.
Trustee Fialko?
I support it.
Is the petitioner here? Beautiful home. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to L2. To save a little time in reading everything that is proposed, does any board member seek an unanimous consent to incorporate as part of the official record for this agenda item, this line item, this agenda supplement sheet, right here, L2, which sets forth the PUD exceptions 1 through 17 and PUD conditions 1 through 6, including A and B. Is there a,
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Reinders? Any objections? Hearing none.
Question. She has a question.
I do. Oh, wait, I'm confused.
If you look at the sheet?
Yes.
Instead of going through every single one of these, we're just making a unanimous, just that I could submit this into the record, as these are the exceptions and conditions for the motion for discussion.
Oh, sure.
Madam Clerk, please call the...
Just without objection. Is there any-
Oh, I asked if there was any objections.
Then without objection. So
I did not hear any. So without objections,
It's part of the order. It's part of the record.
I am, without objections, what am I saying?
May I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
They technically then it'd be without objection. The line item 2 is being incorporated into the record in advance of this motion, and without objection, so ordered.
Yep. So is there a motion for consideration? Is there a motion for approving an ordinance granting, 1, a preliminary plat of subdivision, 2, a map amendment from C2 local business to R6A attached single-family residential district, 3, a special use for a planned unit development with certain exceptions, and 4, a preliminary plan site improvement plan for certain real property located at the southeast and southwest corners of Hidden Valley Trail and 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, commonly known as the Villas of Hidden Valley, pins 16-05-203-200-25-0000, 1605 23 100 49 0000, 1605 23 100 48 0000, with certain exceptions and conditions. Case HG 2423 APUD, with the exceptions 1 through 17 and conditions 1 through 6, including A and B. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Reinders, is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason. All right, now we are here for discussion. Trustee Reinders.
Okay. There's a lot going on here. If we can, Mayor, I was going to ask if the developers are here, if they could please give us some insight as to this development before we...
The developers
actually
or the
go-
attorney?
The attorney or the developer, before we actually go into discussion. Sure.
The chair recognizes the attorney. Would you state your name, please?
Matthew Klein, I'm the attorney for Villas of Hidden Valley.
Thank you. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I would just like to, I know that there's a lot of questions out there regarding the subdivision. And part of what we have been hearing as trustees on the board and the chatter that we're getting back from our residents is that they have some concerns. And I was just wondering if you as the attorney or the developer has gotten any of those concerns. Have they reached out to any of the residents? I mean, have they talked to the residents?
There's more. Look at, there's a team.
We've had a brief discussion with one neighbor tonight, but I think that's the only, I don't think we've heard from anyone.
We've heard a few, just that people were...
Would you mind, before anyone speaks, if
I'm
you could
sorry.
state your name for the
My
record?
name's Jim Marth, developer. Some of the concerns we had was density. We're looking at, our current density is 2.3 acres per, units per acre. I believe the village code is six.
per acre.
So I feel like we're well under our density limits. Open space, our current plan has 7.6 acres.
Plus the park.
Plus the park. The park doesn't count.
Right.
But that would be an
it's still
additional acre.
Out of 20 acres.
Elevations, we've heard some terms, called cookie cutters. We do offer 6 different elevations. Some people may not notice that, but if you drive through, we try to keep everyone different so there's variety. With these type of buildings, we're limited on what we can do. You have a garage, you have a bedroom, so we try to do dormers, gables, different things like that to break up the elevations.
Bay windows.
Bay windows, things like that. Any other concerns?
Yeah, I think the biggest issues were, and this is on your side, is whether it be a park that is provided on site or a contribution, and that's a village call. We're rather neutral on that. Pluses and minuses.
I have a couple questions.
It's very, as far as density, it's very low density. We've got 20 acres and 48 units. We're providing a lot of land that's open for different purposes. It's considered open space under your ordinance.
Also, it's the same product that we're building in Old Oak, so Villas of Old Oak, 143rd Golden Oak, same product, same units, very successful, high demand, and I think we're down to 2 units there out of 46, so they do sell pretty quick.
And half of those purchasers are Homer Glen residents, so, you know, this is a product that is, purchased by people in the community that North builds in. It's you know, people coming out of a large single-family home with a family, kids, whatever their living situation is. This typically is 2 people. It's not typically, kids aren't prohibited by any means, but it is very few kids in all of the projects Martha's built using this product. I think, Chris, you said there was family that had children in the school district?
Yeah, one family,
Out
but that was in Orland Park.
Out of 5 projects, 5 projects?
Mm-hmm.
5 projects. So it's a very low impact. It is a amenity to a community. It's a place for a next living situation for your current residents to live in a house, remain in the community that's in a home that's suited for them. One family, one level living, 2-car garage. It's a very popular product.
And some of the materials that you're going to be using?
So first floor, 100% brick. We do have dormers in the front that we do an LP siding, which is similar to a hardy board fiber product like the last thing we just saw. Concrete driveways, asphalt roofs. Sidewalks. They end up being a nice development.
On both sides of the street.
On both sides, yes. Yes.
Trustee Mason, were you done, Trustee Reynolds?
No.
Oh.
So basically, I am the chair of the Parks Committee, and I know that there's been a lot of back and forth regarding the park. One of the things that I know that was not brought up at the Plan Commission level was the fact that the Parks Committee decided or recommended to take cash in lieu of the land. We would rather take that and be able to look for another lot someplace else because we felt that it was not safe to have a park on 159th Street. So I think some of the residents were maybe just didn't have that information. We were not against a park for the subdivision, but what we thought was that it was just not a safe area, and that having Hidden Valley and Oak Valley without a park for so long, we felt that the size of it basically would be a tot lot, would not accommodate the number of kids in both of those subdivisions. So we felt if we actually took the cash in lieu, that we would be able to look for another piece of land somewhere within the subdivision or in close proximity and be able to put that money towards that. So it wasn't that we don't want a park there or feel that we didn't need a park there. Definitely the area needs a park. And we have listened to the residents, but we just felt that the area that was being offered to us was just not going to be able to accommodate the amount of people behind the subdivisions in those two subdivisions.
Yeah, one acre isn't a large park as far as having active recreation, but for passive recreation, a pagoda place to sit. Yeah, and remember the population of the Martha subdivision is typically going to be 50 plus population. Not limited to that, but typically that's who the purchaser is. So this is a kind of public space that could be attuned to them. We're neutral as to whether you desire a park or not at that location. It's economically pretty much a wash to us. We would ask that you approve our development, and if you wish to continue considering whether you take park or money, that you do that. You can separate that out for a decision. And we'll work with either way you want to go.
All right. Trustee Mason?
Yes, I agree that it should be rezoned for homes versus commercial and moved to R6A. I've listened and read some emails and heard some of our residents. One of the issues that they had brought up was the maintenance of the front entrance for the, and that the HOA, and this is through an email, that through the HOA of the new townhomes, that they pay half. I'm wondering if there's no HOA in Hidden Valley, who is responsible? I guess that's my question. Who is responsible for the other half
Yeah,
Right.
we-
and what
we don't have the
guarantee-
ability
And
to
what guarantee, right,
cover
and I
that.
know you probably couldn't answer this, but I wanted to bring it out. And what guarantee that the villas there will be, reciprocal in paying it? So, I mean, you can't guarantee that. I do think there needs to be some changes before the final plan is submitted. I'm not sure at this point between the money and the park. I do have concerns about the location. I'm wondering if it could be pushed back onto a different lot or it could be adjusted. I understand that the ordinance tonight is to, press forward, or the agenda right now with changing the zoning, and before the final plat comes out, you'll come back in front of us. One thing that you answered two of my questions. One was the density, which I thought, that's what I read as well. The other one was the 6 different elevations, because I heard that there wasn't, but I did see it while looking through the packet, which is extensive. It's about this thick, everybody.
Yes.
So one of the things that the residents also brought up is they do express a desire, the residents of Hidden Valley, and I think all subdivisions should have a park or something nearby. I mean, I know we have a lot of parks. It's a lot for us to take care of and maintain. So maybe, as Trustee Reiner states, maybe something goes in there. I'm not positive on that just yet. Well, you actually answered the articulation of the lack of elevation, so I think we're okay there. I'm just looking real quick to see what else pops out at me. Oh, one of the other things was you as the applicant were seeking approval of the preliminary plat subdivision. The Plan Commission made the recommendation to the village board to go ahead and approve this preliminary plat. With that being said, if the board approves the preliminary plat subdivision, you still have to come back in front of us for the final plat survey.
Yes, we're required to come back to you with something that's in substantial conformance with that. The way we've worked with your staff, the layout of the lots and lot lines, with one exception, would pretty much be locked in, and that is when we get to final engineering on the detention pond, the lots on the north side at Hidden Valley Drive. They're wider currently. There's a little space that we have, we may have, as final drainage gets calculated with all the
Right, I
water
saw you were going to
across,
work on that, and I actually thought about that too, if there was a way to, and I don't know, and I'm not the builder, but, I see those corners and the cul-de-sacs on each end are a little on the open end, and I'm sure that helps on the open spaces portion of it.
That's all part of the open space,
Yeah,
yes.
and I guess aside from all the exceptions, that, you meet all the regulations for the
Yes.
R6A.
Yeah, and most of the exceptions, again, are based in having a separate PIN number lot for each half of the townhomes, rather than having a PIN number for the 2 lots and then dividing them in, at the county after
Right,
the
and I did read that
construction.
as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go.
Yes. I looked at the plans. You build a very nice product. You attract a community that doesn't necessarily always put a big impact on the schools either.
Right.
It's more of your retirement type community, and we appreciate that. You've done a nice job over at 143rd in Golden Oak, although I was disappointed with the garage door thing that took place. I was not very happy with that at all, because I thought it was very clear. And this is a point for the board to take. At this point, we talked about it a couple meetings ago. When you want changes, and you can make those changes, no matter what it is, make sure you're very clear as to the changes that you want. I won't dwell on that too much longer. You know I'm disappointed in what took place there.
We actually looked at the garage doors on the way over, and we can have separate discussion on the garage doors, certainly, but there's a good reason for this.
That's already done. And so the metal stamp ones would be best where you're going now. The wood grain fiberglass ones would have been nice as requested over on Golden Oak and 143rd. But let's all water under the bridge. I don't believe that every subdivision needs I think this came up when your other subdivision went in, although they lacked a park over there.
I don't think every subdivision that we build has to have a park, but accommodating and working with the Parks Committee, like Rose was saying, and taking care of that. I'd almost like the gentleman was saying, how unsafe, he thinks that the park would be unsafe in that location, being so close to the 159th Street. That makes sense. But could we use that, input for another park close by, but not necessarily there? And maybe you could spread out the units a little bit farther and not by building. That would be one of my questions. If the park didn't go in there, would you be looking to put another unit in there, or would you look to be spreading it out a little bit and make things a little bit where it's not so close to each other?
Well, giving up the park wouldn't change the unit arrangement on the rest of the property. That's pretty much fixed by the engineering, where detention ponds are, where the road is, where the preservation of open space that the village requires. We have a lot of rules we have to follow to get to the arrangement we're in.
I guess let's cut to the chase. Would you be looking to add one more unit to take place of that where the park wouldn't be, that you kind of allocated to it? Or would you
We probably would ask to add 2 more units. So 2 buildings, 4 units total.
Well, there are 2 units.
There are 2 buildings. Each building has 2 units in them.
Okay, so you're saying 2 units with 2 each, or
Yes.
1 unit with 2?
Trustee Fialko, if you look at the screen in front of you, it would just mirror the left side, it would look like the right side.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
The addition isn't on here.
No.
But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it would add 2 more units so it'd be a total of 4 units that you'd be adding.
Yes, that would
That's all I needed.
basically pay for the park contribution and our cost of the land.
Trustee Consolino?
It seems as if the board is addressing some of the concerns by the residents, because we did receive a number of emails. So the park was one, the density got addressed. I'm trying to get in my email, and I'm having a tough time pulling up the whole email. I had reached out to Director Gruba earlier, and I'd asked, if he could address some of the concerns. Could you please ask him if there's anything that we missed?
Mr. Gruba?
Yeah,
We went over the list today.
I beg your pardon?
We went over the list today
Yeah.
and I have the emails if you need to refresh your memory, but
Sure. So the question was all the things that we
have
we
all the
talked
concerns been addressed?
about. Well, have all the concerns been addressed? Well, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, so it's kind of a tough question, only
Yeah,
because
right.
that's what we're here to discuss tonight.
My suggestion would be that there be a little further discussion. I think we're getting pretty close to but it's this board's decision. It's not my decision, but I think there needs to be a little more tweaking on what is preferred by the village board and the residents.
Trustee Stylen?
Okay, yeah, I had a long time going through this with lots of comments, so I'm trying to brief them down. We're losing some potential commercial revenue by accepting this, just so you know. I do like the idea, though, that you put a lot of the open space along 159th Street, because then that'll add to the appearance of 159th Street and help these people out. I'm a little concerned about, we're adding homes in there, and I think this is the only entrance and exit for the Hidden Valley subdivision.
That's correct.
So has safety weighed in on that at all?
What's the question? I don't understand the question.
Yeah, because if anything happens at this entrance exit, you've got even more people now.
Our traffic study, there was adequate access. There would be no impeding the access at 159th and Hidden Valley. We did go through it with the fire department, and they had a report that was presented at the Plan Commission. They did not have objection with our layout or with the turns at the cul-de-sac at each end.
And then the density is a concern, and I know people expressed concern about having a right turn-in lane, but it's my understanding that there isn't any other subdivision on 159th Street that has that. So to address the residents' concerns about that. But I do understand what it's like to want to slow down and have somebody worrying about getting rear-ended. Because of the density, I went and looked at Amberfield, I don't know if you're familiar with Amberfield is on Parker Road. It's about the same units per lot as this is. But one of the things that Amberfield does that you don't have is they do have the side load garages. And the way that they do that is they have 3 units to a to one thing instead of the 2 duplexes.
Yeah, that's
And-
a major difference in the concept of development. The 2 units really are attached single-family homes with a common wall.
Right.
When you have a middle unit like that, it's much less desirable.
Okay, because that way, well, actually, I thought Amberfield looks really nice.
Yeah,
And, so
can be very nice.
for the residents that were complaining about it being too homogeneous looking, that might, if you just put a couple in there, I was wondering if that would give
I
you,
don't
free
think
up a
that-
little bit more space.
Yeah.
And my comment on the parks is, parks are more than playgrounds. So I think when you're designing a park for an area, it needs to address the people who live there. So people who live there might not appreciate a tot lot, but they would maybe appreciate a gazebo or maybe a fishing pier at the ponds or,
Sure.
something else
Yeah.
that's a little bit more unique. But I'm very concerned about Outlot B and Outlot A. That's where the ponds are. And when you follow it down to, the reason why you have Outlot A on Hidden Valley is that's because that's probably wet, and it's probably Hidden Valley because it's the
There's a
land
lot
is-
of water that comes across 159th into our property.
Right.
Requires the ponds that we have, that's mostly not water generated by our site, that's water that flows onto our site. We have to manage, restrict it before it flows further south. And kind of addressing another one of your comments on commercial, because of those ponds and the narrowness of the site, and this property's been vacant for probably 20 or more years, which it was designed for commercial, it just isn't feasible to put commercial there.
Well, I'm just wondering if, instead of having Outlot E in the open space park on 159th, if you made it by Outlot A, that would give the park a feel of being larger. And then, maybe move a couple units up to Outlot E.
Yeah.
I really don't,
Yeah.
I really want to see a park.
Yeah, most of
And
this,
my
I
fear
think, is
about-
driven by drainage, so.
Yeah, and my fear, the Outlot E, I agree with it not being safe, being on 159th. And my concern with taking money is it would have to be really designated in a fund for land that would be in that area, because I really think if the residents are giving up something, that needs to benefit them. So that's my concern that I would like to address with the parks. And so I think we've got everything, unless I'm missing anything. I had a lot, but the mailboxes, I'm thinking, are going to be central, just like, I looked at your other
We don't have a
development.
choice in that.
Yeah,
That's
so
post office.
that looks nice. And,
You'll have an opportunity, we'll come back around.
yeah, so that's it.
So I have a few statements or comments I'd like to make. First of all, I was at the Planning Commission. You seem very accommodating. You seem very willing to work with the neighbors. I haven't heard any complaints. I haven't heard anybody actually I did receive many emails. I didn't get a chance to go through every single one, but I got through them pretty fast today. There doesn't seem to be any pushback on the residential portion. I know Trustee Steinlein had stated that we're giving up commercial, but it's not like commercial developers are pounding on our door to get in either. So I know that some residents had stated it's going to be an impact on our schools, but I believe at the Planning Commission you stated that there may have been, like you stated, one family, but that was even in Orland Park.
Yeah.
I live behind their development in Old Oak. I admit, when it came to the board, I was like, ugh, duplexes. But I have to say, I drive past it every single day, and they're beautiful. I believe one of your latest lots or properties just sold for over $900,000, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, for a duplex. So we're not talking about some cheaply made, you have a beautiful product, by the way. I do have a question.
Yes.
Is the stone 2 different colors? Because it looks to me sometimes when I drive by that some of the houses are different.
Well, the stone is the same, the brick is 4 different colors.
Brick, that's
So we
that's
use
what I meant, the
4
brick, I'm
different-
sorry.
Yeah, 4 different earth tone colors.
So the stone is different colors?
It
Because I
is.
kept being told that they're the same exact brick,
No,
And I'm
they're-
like, nope, I drive past it every day. I'm pretty sure they're different.
We do that in case one of the bricks is discontinued. You pick one brick for the whole development, you get down to the end, brick's discontinued, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So with 4, we can always keep a variety, and it makes them look unique.
At Planning Commission, I did agree that I like the buffer, the tree buffer in the back, so the residents behind them are behind, or they butt up to next to each other. I believe a tree buffer would be nice. As, you know, people make comments that we're rubber stampers up here, but you can see that we're all over the place. I can tell you that I am not for a park in this development, especially because the location is off of 159th Street. It would cause, for me, it would be a safety issue. I was proposing earlier that we take if you added the 4 additional units, I think the dollar amount would go up to $92,000. Is that right, Mr.
It
Gerba?
increases.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The 4 units, if he was to
There's a
incorporate 4
chart
additional
in the-
units, would it be 92?
91,000 and some
90
change.
91,000 and some change. I would be open to finding an open lot, as Ms. Janie Patch had looked into the subdivision in Hidden Valley, to see if there was any open lots to purchase that lot with the money that you would be giving us for the lot. So this would reserve a spot for some land for a park. My concern, bringing another park in, is our inventory of parks is depleting our park fund faster than we ever realized. Taking on the additional parks from the township had started depleting our park fund greatly. Adding a park that would be sufficient enough for Hidden Valley would be somewhere in $400,000 range, just to put the park in. And then we're looking at maintaining it. We don't have a park district tax, right? Everybody wants a park. I agree with Trustee Fialko. I don't think that every subdivision needs a park, but I think every area deserves some sort of lot. We have a huge park out here. I know everyone doesn't want to drive to it, but we need to pump the brakes a little bit on what we spend as well. So I am for the 4 additional units. I think you're actually below the density.
Yeah, we're significantly below.
I mean, and it's zoned commercial. Again, I would rather back up to these. I mean, what I drive by every single day, they're absolutely stunning. I can't wait to move in. So I got a few more years, but I can't wait to get there. This would actually help our school district because they will be paying taxes into our school district without the students coming in. So I see that as a positive impact.
Yes.
The brick color, what is it proposed in here? Is it 4 or 6, did you say?
There's 4 brick colors.
4
There's
bricks.
samples,
Yeah.
sample boards on the side.
Yeah. I don't care what garage doors you put in, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to hold you down to it, so that doesn't bother me. What else was I going to say? I do have a question. How fast do you want to be shovel-ready?
Fall?
Yeah, we would, ideally, fall would be great,
So,
as soon as we can get permits.
so if I asked you this, because I'm sure you saw what the exceptions and conditions were, right? I would like to, I proposed to the residents who did email me, I'd like to sit with those residents and just really deep dive into what the actual concerns are. I know you guys want to be great neighbors. You're great neighbors in Old Oak. So I obviously can't make a motion to table this just until the next meeting, which is 2 weeks away. I don't know if that's going to affect you in any way. But I would like to take the opportunity with one trustee to meet with the residents just to see where we can, and invite you as well, just to have a conversation and see where we can meet in the middle.
Yeah, I think we'd be amenable to that. And from our listening at the Plan Commission meeting, there were a lot of the neighbors behind us that wanted a park in their neighborhood. They didn't like our location, but they really wanted a park. And that's why we'll go either way on that. You know, it's not an ideal location for a park where we have it, but it's the only place we have in our subdivision.
Yeah.
If you want to provide a solution for the people who live behind us.
Yeah. Ms. Patch, do you have the information you pulled up earlier about the available lots? We don't even know if they're for sale, but.
To see if there were any undeveloped lots between those 2 subdivisions, Hidden Valley and the one across the right-of-way, the utility corridor to the east. And there is a lot in the interior of the Hidden Valley Estate subdivision that's not developed.
Is it for sale?
We don't know that.
No. Do we know the owner?
We do.
All right. So I just feel like we need to just do a little bit more homework. And again, beautiful project. Everything's, I like it. I just want to make sure that the residents, your neighbors, are going to be happy too. That's all.
We'd ask you to
If
put
we
us
can all
on the
win,
next
it'd be
agenda,
great.
but,
What's that?
We'd ask you to put us on the next agenda, but,
Yeah, so I can't make the motion, so if there is a trustee who would like to make a motion to table it to the April 23rd meeting, that would be great.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll. There's no discussion on a table.
Understood.
I'm sorry.
I will make the motion to table
Yes.
this item until the next board meeting.
April 23rd.
April 23rd.
As stated prior, and I second.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion to table carries. I do appreciate you guys being so accommodating.
thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
And for any resident who wants to be involved in that meeting, send Joe an email. Sorry, Joe.
Or plenty of them.
All right, we're going to move on to L3. Consider for approval an ordinance for numerous text amendments to add regulations for solar energy systems, SES, in Chapter 220 zoning of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen, including the following attachments and articles. Attachment 1, use and bulk tables for residential districts. Attachment 2, use and bulk tables for non-residential districts. Article 3, rules and definitions. Article 8, general provisions, case HG 2503-A. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Reinders.
I'll second.
Trustee Fialko. Trustee Reinders.
Okay, currently, Mayor, we do not have an ordinance regarding solar panels or farms or et cetera. Solar energy panels are becoming more popular, and our village needs to be prepared moving forward. So I think our staff did a great job on all the research on this, so I would just say that I think this is great.
Trustee Fialko.
Yes. That is correct. We don't have enough things that provide guidance under 220 zoning for solar. Now, for residents and the residents that want to put them on their roofs, which I've seen a lot lately, that should be their right, and I know we have to have rules, but the solar farms, I don't know how much when you say non-residential, this would apply to solar farms, but there's been a lot of problems with solar farms. Honestly, I don't think that we should allow solar farms to be in Homer Glen at this point, because the problem is the cleanup. When they only have a lifespan of so long, and then when it comes time to clean them up, according to the way things are set up, and I know the federal government is involved in this a little bit as to their application and where they can and cannot go, depending on our ordinances. So I almost think this needs to be looked at a little deeper and be very careful. Obviously, I won't be here, but I think it's a very big concern to know when those solar panels expire, who's taking care of the waste that comes with that. And they don't have a long shelf life or a long lifespan. So that would, that is just one of my concerns for this village, is to be very careful where we move with this. Again, I can see it for the residents. The residents should be able to do what they want to do in their yard and on their house, and we should have the ordinance for that. But again, I'd be very careful with the non-residential districts and putting solar farms in. And matter of fact, I haven't heard from Chris if that's where when he says non-residential, is that what he's applying it to? These solar farms that are popping up in places that everybody's protesting. So,
Mr. Gerba.
Thank you. So this is actually, and the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that there's very few uses that the municipality may prohibit outright, such as recreational marijuana or things like that. So what this ordinance does for solar farms is that it restricts solar farms to only the I-1 industrial zone district with a special use permit. It's almost as close as you can get to prohibiting it without actually prohibiting it. So that's to answer your question about the solar farms. But if you had any other questions about, if you see in the picture there in the middle right, for somebody's residential back use, I don't think you're referring to that.
no. My question would be, at this point, do we have the option to remove solar farms completely from even being considered? Or does the federal law prevent us from doing that right now? I'd like to know that, because the complaints that are coming in on these solar fields, I see it every day. And again, it comes to the cleanup and the longevity with them that comes with them. So I don't know if we're prepared to do this part of it yet. I know you're saying it gets it really close to preventing it, but maybe putting it in there that we do, maybe that's something the board wants to talk about and see, maybe we want to prevent solar farms from being here at all. Because we do have a lot of cornfields, and we probably are looked at very closely as a potential spot for all these places, for solar farms to replace the corn. And I would hate to see that. So I think it just needs a little bit more work. Again, it'll be up to the board that's going to be here, though. Thank you.
Attorney, do you know if there's any federal regulations at this time?
We have not been asked, Madam Mayor, to put together an opinion for this board on that specific issue. What I can, though, share is that Director Gruber is correct as far as being in the industrial zoning with the special use permit is the highest level of scrutiny or highest level of regulation that you'd have based upon our zoning code. Right now, you don't have anything. Right now, there's nothing in there that regulates it. So this would be step one with regards to regulation of it through the eye for the industrial zoning, requiring it also a special use permit. And then we can certainly provide an opinion to you all if you decide, the board decides at a later point, they want to outright ban it, but we'd have to do some research on that issue.
Thank you. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I just thought you guys did a great job on this. There's not very much experience with the solar anywhere when you did the research and looked at other communities. So, and I would oppose a solar farm, but this does, everything is a special use if it comes to us, right?
Well, not everything, no. It would just be for solar farms or a special use in the I-1. Anything
Right.
that's mounted to the side of a building would be a special use and come before the planning commission. But other things like a
The
residential thing in
accessory
the backyard,
structure, yeah.
but could be permitted by right.
But if it was a solar farm, it would be a special use, so I'm fine with this.
Trustee Mason?
I had asked that same question about waste that Trustee Fialco did. In fact, you and I talked a little bit about it last week. I understand reading through here that in order to get a solar farm, you would have to get a special use permit. There isn't any regulation at this time, not really. And I think that Chapter 220 zoning is leading us in that direction. And at the same time, this is primarily, and you did a great job, and it's a lot of work. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 on this, and it brings us more into the residential right now, which is fine and dandy, because if anybody wanted anything else, they got to come in front of us.
And it also does not have to be approved as a special use. Right. Right, and I just wanted to say one more thing, Mayor, if I may, is that another adjacent community had, I guess, concerns about Airbnbs, short-term rentals. And so the attorney's opinion at that time is that short-term rentals could not be banned outright in the village, but they could be restricted severely. So that's what this is trying to follow suit with. So again, I'm not certain that they can be banned completely, but they can be very dialed back.
Thank you for that.
Trustee Consolino?
No, my concern was mostly with the solar farms and the possibility of, just last year, I think it was Lamont that was looking at putting one in near Smith Road. There's a great deal of environmental factors, and I did a lot of research into it. It's highly disturbing. I'm disappointed that there was no public comment or interest in this because it is such a environmental issue and concern, but I'm in agreement with both the attorney and with Director Gruber that we have to have the utmost strict regulations instead of not having anything in case one comes. So.
Are you done? Mm-hmm. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Fialco?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
All right.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to number 4, consider for approval an ordinance for text amendments to Chapter 220, Article 12, Administration and Enforcement of the Zoning Code of the Village of Homer Glen to modify board-approved time extensions for approved variances and special use permits. Case HG 2507-A. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee
I'll
Mason,
second.
Trustee Fialco, Trustee Mason?
As we just stated and went over, so.
Trustee Fialco?
I support this.
Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, I support it too.
Trustee Consolino?
When I was reading through the packet, I understand we don't want to lose the grant funding and that this is all on, am I on the right one, right? I'm on L5?
L4.
L4, okay, that would be it, I don't have. That would explain it. Okay, I got L3 and I got L5.
Do you need, would you like to see my L4?
Yes, please.
I've got,
So I'm going to pass for now.
Trustee Reinders? Back to you, Trustee Cancelino.
No, I'm okay.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 5, consider for approval waiving the umbrella coverage requirement for Playtopia, the approved contractor for the park equipment and installation in the Villas of Old Oak subdivision. Is there a motion?
Oh.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason,
I'll
is there a
second.
second? Was that Trustee Reinders?
Yeah.
Trustee Reinders. Trustee Mason.
This is something that we were trying to get put in. It's additional language. Trustee Fialko had some good questions and concerns further back on this. This is not Playtopio's practice to attain umbrella coverage. I get that. We have a federal grant requirement that has been signed with a contract with a vendor. And if we do not act within certain timelines to meet our documentations and constructions of this project, we risk $146,800 grant funding loss to the village.
Trustee Reinders.
When we originally got the RFP for this, they met all the insurance requirements. The only requirement that they didn't meet was the umbrella that came at a later time. So they said that they will definitely meet everything, but they just said that they can't meet that umbrella coverage at this time.
Trustee Stylen.
Yes, and I checked with the village manager, and our insurer does cover this, so it's not like we're going to be without insurance, or this project is going to be without insurance.
Trustee Fialko.
I just, if I could, yield my time to an answer. Did legal counsel get a chance to take a look at this?
Yes, Your Honor.
And,
Yes.
and have an opinion?
Yes, sir. The coverage amounts that are currently listed by them, in my view, based upon similar projects and similar risks, you'd be covered. And then the village's, in the unlikely event something catastrophic happens, the village's insurance would be adequate.
Okay, the only reason I asked that is because like with Homerfest and the tents and the bands, and we're kind of nitpicking that apart in a way. We're protecting ourselves, I understand that, but then we're saying it's okay. That's where the confusion came in for me, as to we're ready to waive this, but we were kind of looking at other things that were going on in the village and kind of enforcing the language in there to be a little more stringent.
So, if I may, ma'am. So the insurance provisions that we have, in any case, in any instance for any contractor, allows for a contractor or someone who the village is engaged or wants to engage in business with to request a waiver of insurance coverage or types of coverage. I'm asked, if I can speak on this, Joe, Mr. Baber, yes. So I'm asked routinely by Mr. Baber and his staff if certain things can just be, we could set things up in different buckets, and could we have insurance requirements for this and not this? And I think it's the best practice to have, you always go to the highest risk factor is the most stringent insurance that you put out there. And then you have a provision, just like we have in every case-by-case basis, where this board can waive insurance coverage requirements on a case-by-case basis, because every risk is going to be different. Are you going to get 100% compliance? No, you're not. But you're going to get folks down the road, they're going to request an insurance coverage waiver for certain facets of what we have. Joe's staff, and I can tell you because I sat with him and his staff today, and I sat with him and his staff on Tuesday morning, would talk about different risks on a case-by-case basis. I know what Mr. Baber plans on doing is bringing those that have requested waivers to A&F, and then from there it'll go before this board, kind of in a big mass, and that's when this board can decide whether or not to change those coverage requirements. So it's not that someone's being nitpicky here or there, it's the way that it's set up. It's a heightened insurance requirement, and then it can go before this board at the request of someone that wants to do business with the village to request a case-by-case specific waiver, because each case is different. There's not one size fits all. We don't want to have, but I think it's best practice to have strict requirements, have it go before this body to determine whether or not to waive certain portions of those requirements.
That was
Well said.
Great explanation. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Trustee Consolino.
My only question is, who normally would be providing the umbrella coverage? I'm glad that we have our own, but normally would that be the vendor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then I understand we're waiving it this time, but that should always be in whatever paperwork goes forward. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Trustee Reinders?
For clarification, they did meet all the insurance requirements in 2024. We then changed our ordinance for that additional layer of insurance, and that's the requirement that they did meet. So, but they did meet the original requirements for coverage, so.
Any additional comments?
No, I think for simple layman terms, we ask for, Mars, and if we get the moon, fantastic. Everybody here is right. I mean, we have good questions, and I think legal, you expressed it perfectly. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, consider for approval an ordinance amending Chapter 83 of the Village Code to authorize the enforcement of posted parking restrictions where such parking restrictions are a condition of business license and premises owners, zoning, special use, variance, or PUD. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason, Trustee Fialko, Trustee Mason?
You get the last one.
Actually, you know what? Trustee Fialko, I'm going to give it to you.
There you go.
Then Trustee
You
Mason.
wanted this.
It was probably an oversight on Trustee Mason. No, I'm
It
just
is. You
kidding.
get the- I didn't realize it was the last one.
We had something that took place through a PUD not too long ago that we needed to correct. It came back all the way from October 19th of 2020. But nevertheless, what this does is it allows Lieutenant Piazza, the police department, to go on to private property, and instead of giving the owner of the business the ticket, it allows the police force to give the driver of the vehicle that's in violation the ticket. So it took a while to work on this. Mike and I chiseled away at it. We wordsmithed it in a way that it's pretty simple to follow, and I think we've done our work, and I obviously support it. Thank you.
Trustee Mason?
No, and I apologize, Trustee Fialko, I should have gave you that one. You and I went through this in A&F as well as several of us, and we had differences of opinion there for a little while, but the only real difference of opinion, and I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with you. I think that the actual violators were the ones that should be getting the ticket. I absolutely feel that way. I don't think it should fall upon the owner. I think it should fall upon the operator of the motor vehicle. And absolutely, at this point, I support it. Thank you.
Sure.
Or no?
No, but let me go through the
Yes,
trustees
ma'am.
first.
Sorry.
Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I think this solves the problem that we're having with the trucks or people staying there too long. And so give credit to Trustee Fialko for working on this to get this going. Thank you.
Trustee Consolino?
No, I'm in firm support of a common sense approach with amending this. I think it took a while, but I'm glad that everybody's in agreement. And thank you, Trustee Fialko, because you really kept nailing, and Mike, thank you for working on it, because you really nailed it this time, so I appreciate it.
Trustee Reinders?
I support this. I believe that to penalize a business because somebody doesn't follow the rules is just ridiculous. So I support this.
Any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business. Does anybody have any old business?
Yeah.
When it's my turn.
Trustee Fialko, you have the floor.
Okay, The only thing I want to mention is, just so everybody knows, we've tried several different times. I was over there again, Joe, and that spot between Aldi and Speedway, I don't know what's going on there, why it can't be 100%, and I don't know if we sent staff out there or not, but that's something, just so the new board coming in knows, that we've tried through talking to Aldi, we tried talking to Speedway and trying, did environmental ever go out there though, as part of their cleanup? I wasn't sure if environmental had ever gone out there as part, or did we send staff? I'm not sure if we sent staff and then we sent the bill, but it's still in a condition that needs to be monitored, I think, a little more often, just so we make sure we're on top of that, because our community should not look like that anywhere. And it's not, maybe it's not anyone's fault, because it's like a wind tunnel over there, and the debris can blow over there, but if you go over by that curb line, it's very obvious how bad that is looking, or has looked in the past. If I could ask, you said there's 2 openings for the Planning Commission, and one for
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and one for Homerfest. I was just wondering, who did we lose from the Planning Commission, and who did we lose from Homerfest? Because that's the first I'm hearing of.
Yeah, so we didn't lose anybody. Their term is up on May 31st, so the 2 seats will be coming available if they do not seek reappointment.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and if the board chooses not to reappoint them and choose somebody else.
And then Homerfest?
And Homerfest, we had a committee member who did not attend 4 consecutive meetings without notification to the chairman, so they are automatically removed.
Who was that?
I do not want to state at this time.
You can tell me later.
I'll tell you later.
All right. Thank you. That's it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Consolino, did you have something? I thought I heard you say.
Yeah, I did. Our free tree saplings, we should be getting them sometime next week, hopefully Tuesday or Wednesday. By either the weekend or the following week, they will be available for all residents to come while the supply lasts. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mason, you had your hand up as well?
I'll save it for new business.
Okay, I just have one. Oh, Trustee Silent, go ahead.
If we could just, with the tree ordinance, that would be under old business.
Yes.
So we had the workshop at our last meeting. I am available May 6th. I'm sorry I didn't respond to your email yet. So can we work on, like, how is that going to?
Yeah, I was actually just going to talk about that.
Okay.
So committee appointments, the terms for the committees are up on May 31st. Homerfest is in July. I can't remember the exact date. However, the chairs of the committees, their term of their committee ends with the term of their official capacity. So I know that Trustee Consolino is the current chair of the Envir Committee. She would no longer be a part of that committee if you were to have the meeting after, depending on when the numbers are certified. From what I understand, the certification comes no more than 3 weeks after the election date, so that would be April 22nd. It could be before that, and that is actually why that this would be their last meeting, is because there's a state statute out there that says that must happen. So there's no hostile takeover or anything. That is just, that's the law. So unfortunately, if you have your meeting on May 6th that was proposed, Trustee Consolino would not be a member at the time, because we would not be appointing committees until after May 31st. So it's kind of one of those messed up date loophole things that we have going on there. Limbo. So I would propose to have the meeting prior to Trustee Consolino's departure date. And again, it can't be more than the 22nd. So at any time, the numbers can be certified. It could be the 20th, it could be the 18th. We don't know.
Do you guys want to try and shoot for earlier on the 22nd before we have our presentation?
Again, the certification can come on the 20th.
Oh, I gotcha.
18th.
18th, so.
It could come at any day.
Then it would have to be sometime next week.
But it's usually around the 22nd. I'm just saying, if it happens on the 20th, and you guys plan your meeting for the 21st, I want to be very clear of what the process is.
What is everybody's availability?
She has the floor.
Next week? Or do you want to do this via email? But it's going to have to be to the entire board because it's committee of the whole. So.
I gotta look, I'm looking at my calendar on my telephone. What date, Trustee Consolino?
We're talking about anywhere maybe like the 16th or the 18th. So that would be Wednesday through Friday.
The 16th is A and F at 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it following.
You want to do it
I'm
after A&F?
available.
Okay.
So it is a committee
So
of
that
the
would be
whole.
the 16th.
So it's a committee of the whole, so I would be the chairman, and we would have to do the same as usual, posting and all that fun stuff.
Yes. Is that enough time for everybody?
Does that work for you?
What's the
Trustee Mason?
date?
April
Wednesday the
16th.
16th.
You should have it for, I believe you're out of town.
Yeah, if we do it, I guess right after A&F, yeah.
Okay. And then could we ask staff if they would have a little bit more information for us regarding what they were going to work on with?
I'll meet with Mr. Gruba and go over some details
And
that
Mr.
were some
Westcott.
concern of planning or environment.
Okay.
So April 16th at what, 3 o'clock?
Got enough time for you
If
guys?
planning-
Yes, it has to be.
4.
4?
Well, they're telling me 4.
Oh, you're
Okay,
right.
so
I don't know if that's, yeah.
right now, we're looking tentatively at Wednesday, April 16th, at 4 PM.
Trustee Mason, if you can't attend, we would still have majority.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll still have majority, so I mean,
I'll do my best.
okay. 4 o'clock, April 16th. Trustee Galpo, did you have
Yeah,
something
I
to add?
just to throw a reminder out there, the planning commission, I know there's 2 spots that are up, but that report that they are supposed to give, the annual report, it just kind of came to light last year. I don't know if Joe can remind them, or how they can be reminded that they owe the board that report that's in the ordinance, to be given by May 31st, at one of the meetings up to and including, or at least by the end of May 31st. And of course, I won't be here, so I just want to put that reminder out.
I haven't missed a single meeting, so I'm not going to. I'll be here.
And you took notes.
Mr. Baber, can you make sure that Planning Commission knows to give their report before May 31st?
Yes, duly noted, Mayor.
Okay.
Have to add that.
Any more old business? Any new business?
Yes, ma'am,
Trustee Mason,
unless somebody else has some first.
let's go with you.
Recently, during our public service and safety, I brought it up to the board that we've had residents bring to our attention the hopes of banning nitrous oxide for sale in Homer, Glen, and tobacco stores. They mentioned that it's not well regulated, which it's not. Pete's looking into a couple things for me, Mr. Piazza. Also, it's sold over the counter in many vape shops. Recreational users generally use 8 grams or a quarter ounce of containers of nitrous oxides, and it's called whippets, which they use to fill balloons or whipped cream dispensers. The gas is inhaled from the balloon or dispenser. This is necessary because the nitrous oxide is very cold, so they have to have a way to decompress it. On the exit from the canister, inhalation directly from a tank is very dangerous and can cause frostbite of the larynx. Recently, as of 2022 and later, large canisters of nitrous oxide containing 600 grams or more of net content have appeared in vape shops and other retailers. Health professionals have expressed concern of the large size and make it easier for neurotoxic effects and dependency to develop users. So additionally, in 2024, flavored nitric oxide started being produced in canisters by companies called Galaxy Gas, and other brands have become popular. It's also criticized for seemingly being marketed towards children. I won't make this a long process tonight. Like I said, I cut it short earlier, but the term Galaxy Gas is being used as a generic form of this. It's not well regulated in the United States. It is under the Food and Drug Administration, but not under the DEA's purview. In the United States, possession of nitrous oxide is legal and is not subject to DEA review. It's an hallucinogenic. There's a large, diverse class of psychoactive drugs that can produce altered states of conscious, characterized by major alterations in thought, mood, and perception, as well as other changes. Most hallucinogenics can be categorized as either psychedelics or deliriants. I'm going to drop it right there, but I think we need to have some sort of ordinance in place, and we do not, for sale of over-the-counter to children. And when you market something to people, if you're selling it at a tobacco shop or a vape store and it's flavored, it's not for you and me. It's for children. And so they're targeting the children because there isn't any laws or loopholes, but we can go in and put an ordinance together to make sure this isn't just another thing, you know, that, and even adults in some stores can't buy, you know, X amount of whipped cream because of the same reasons. Now, if you're targeting it in bigger units, 600 grams versus 8 ounces, you know, you're targeting this for a specific use. And I think that we need to put some type of ordinance in place to make sure that you're not targeting our children. That's all.
Thank you. Trustee Fialko?
Yeah, I think that's very valid, and looking out for the kids of the community is one of our top priorities all the time, right? The only thing I would caution us in that is, I don't know, the propellant for whipped cream in the grocery store is nitrous oxide. So all I'm saying is you can put and make laws or make an ordinance about something, and somebody's going to find a way around it. And I don't see us making unless, just like spray paint, you might want to include whipped cream in your ordinance that somebody under 18 years old can't buy a can of whipped cream. I don't know. All I'm saying is when there's a will, there's a way. And so with caution, when you're putting that together, just take that into consideration. Thank you.
I mean, weren't kids eating Tide Pods at one point or something?
Yeah.
I mean, weird.
If you don't mind, bottom line, if you're doing it at tobacco, and that's where you would probably start, or a vape shop, because they're not doing it for a cake. They're not doing it for any other reason. I'm not buying a lot of balloons from the vape shop. So they're not doing it for party or they're doing it for recreational hallucinogenics. And when you flavor something like that, there's a specific reason. And if we have some type of ordinance in place that, it could be my grandson, your granddaughter, whoever, your daughter, whatever case may be, we should do something that stops tobacco sellers, vape shops. They have to go and sneak in Jewel and get whipped cream, and, you know, Dad's going to see a couple cans of that laying around, and somebody's going to get suspicious. So we should make it as difficult as possible.
Do we know if any of the surrounding suburbs have similar ordinances to that effect?
There are some out there, and I don't know about the state of Illinois right now, because it's not, it is not, like I said, illegal anywhere through the DA. It is through the Food and Drug Administration, and they can't stop you, like Jewel or Meyer, from buying X amount of whipped cream.
Is that something, Attorney Michael Pasquinelli, is it something that we could?
Is that something you do, Mr. Pasquinelli?
Is it something we could do, is make an ordinance to that effect? I think I've heard of stuff before, but I didn't, I'm an 80s child, so I thought that was like over with by the 90s, that people were doing that. But I do agree. Our children are attracted to anything that's pretty and colorful and flavorful, so.
Well, it's illegal to go in and buy a pack of cigarettes if you're under the age of 18. But if you walk in there and he doesn't come out with a pack of cigarettes, but he comes out with little canisters, he hasn't broken any laws.
Cigarettes 21 now or 18?
Did you? Well, 21. Whatever the case. I misspoke. Under the age of 21, if you walk in, you know, and you got a 16, 15, 14-year-old, and he doesn't come out with a pack of cigarettes, it's not against the law right now. So he can walk in and get all these canisters of nitric oxide and go have a party, I guess, and he hasn't broken any law. And you have to prove, and in most cases, I mean, that report's a little bit longer, but in most cases, you have to prove intent, which is almost impossible. Because
What you're seeing along the sides of the roads now, you're seeing them, I've seen them.
Right.
I've seen them just thrown out on the side of the road.
Well, it starts with vapes, now we move to nitrous oxide, now we start flavoring that, and, you know, here we go.
I'm going to ask the attorney to speak on this real fast.
So the question was, you know, can the village regulate the sale of some product that other villages may not be doing? And that answer is yes. An example would be the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago has a ban on selling spray paint within the city corporate limits. If you want to have spray paint, you got to buy it outside of the city of Chicago, and it's actually a violation of their ordinance to actually sell it within its jurisdiction. So similarly, this village could put together an ordinance if they direct me to do so. If this board directs me to reach a consensus and tell me to draft something, we could put together something that would ban the sale of certain sorts of products, like nitrous oxide products, at certain premises, which would be vape shots and the like. And we can certainly do that for you.
Thank you. The third source would be for cars.
Hit your button.
Oh, third source would be for cars, the nitrous oxide.
Right, use it for...
So it's everywhere. That's
why it's not... Excuse me. That's why it's not illegal, because it's for cars, it's for cakes, it's for compression, it's for a whole bunch of different reasons. But when you start to take the gas itself and flavor it, you're not doing it for your car, you're doing it for the kids.
Okay, moving on. Is there anything else for new business?
not for me.
The only thing I wanted to add is earlier I stated that there was a trustee seat. Trustee McNaughton had given his resignation. And I did not state who to email if you are interested in assuming his seat. It would be Mayor Christina at homerglenil.org. That's who you would email if you were interested in that seat. There's one seat available at this current time. I just want to be clear. Assuming when Trustee Stylen takes over her new role, assuming she would give her resignation at that time. So as of right now, there's one. Anything else new?
I would like to make a comment about Trustee McNaughton. He was the human abacist, and I truly appreciated him sitting next to me through the last 2 years, and appreciated his input.
May I?
Sure.
Yes, I'd like to say the same thing. Trustee McNaughton, what a gentleman, and he was a gentleman with that accent, and I'll never forget that accent. But even through all the tough times in the politics that went on in the past, we all know they've been there. He's always been a gentleman, always shook my hand. If everybody ever noticed, I've done that, just so everybody here knows. Since the very first day that I was on this board, I've always shaken everybody's hand and said hello. And he has always been a gentleman. And I just want to point that out. And this board, like you said, human advocate, he was very good with numbers. And his commitment for the past 2 years cannot be underestimated as to the value he brought to this board. So thank you to Mr. McNaughton.
Yep. Mr. McNaughton, awesome guy. Just so everybody knows, he's furthering his career and he's furthering his volunteerism in trying to fight human trafficking. So I support his resignation on fighting for our children. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right, we're going to move to the workshop item, the budget. This is going to be fun. Are you guys going to stay for the budget? Does the audience want to stay for the budget? Because we could take a 5-minute recess or just go right into it. What? I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. For those who want to clear the room and not have to stay for this budget, it's going to be a long, see, I figured. Let you guys get out of here. All right, is there a motion to take a 5-minute recess?
I'll make that motion.
I'm going to give it to Fialco again. Trustee Mason, all in favor? Aye. All right, 5 minutes. All right, I'd like to call this meeting back to order at 8:51. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Present.
Trustee Mason?
Present.
Trustee Fialco?
He's here somewhere.
Trustee Consolino? Present. Trustee Reinders? Present. Mayor Knightsky-Troicki?
Present. All right, workshop. Fiscal year 2026 budget draft discussion. John, you have the floor.
We have a balanced budget to go over. Before I start, I wanted to thank Joe and Lisa and all the department heads for their input into this document. I didn't want to forget that. The template is the same as that we've used over the last several years, so I hope you find it familiar. There's a standard letter, kind of a boilerplate letter that we've used. I think the third paragraph's pretty interesting. It notes that it's the 5th year of the budget with the new Public Works Department, and it's also the 5th year without debt. So once again, no debt in this budget. And then continuing on, the 10 funds are listed on that slide. We're down one fund. The American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA fund, is terminated because we received and spent the $3 million of federal funds. We purchased the land for the wastewater treatment plant.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Let the record show trustee Fialco has arrived at 8:53. Okay, proceed.
On the next slide, it just shows a summary of revenues and expenses per fund. And I want to point out, it's a little misleading. The top 3 funds are general funds, and those are the funds that we are measured for underwriting or for bond rating. It's our fiscal performance, our fiscal management. Those are balanced funds. The other funds on there, park, capital projects, trees, MFT, not trees, but the MFT and the CIP bond fund, those are capital project funds. Their life cycle is that they build revenues up and then they spend them down. And it doesn't really, it's not specific to a fiscal year, it's perpetual. So you can see those funds have significant expenses in there. It shows the total revenues for all 10 funds at $25.2 million and total expenses at $48.4 million. The next chart, this is just a pie chart that shows our revenues by fund. The general fund gets its money from taxes, fees for service, fines and forfeitures, investment income. Home rule sales tax is that 1% sales tax that the village collects. Motor fuel tax is a per capita revenue that we get for the state motor fuel tax. It also shows some grant revenues in it. And then the capital project fund has some revenues, which is some state reimbursements of engineering fees. And the next slide just shows a percent of the expenses per fund. Capital projects and parks are kind of an anomaly this year. We have some sizable endeavors in them that are multi-year. The capital project fund has the full cost of the wastewater treatment plant. Park and Recreation Fund has a sizable proposal for expansion at the Heritage Park. And the Motor Fuel Tax Fund has the full cost of the 151st Street widening. So we'll start with the general fund. It's our operating fund. It's what primarily we are graded on for bond rating and it is a balanced budget. There's approximately a $7,000 surplus. We expect to start the year at about $7.3 million. We have budgeted revenues of $15.1 million, offset by expenses of $15.1 million. We're going to end the year approximately the same as where we started. The next chart just shows the revenues by size and percent of the total. It's very similar to the past several years. The property tax doesn't show any increase, and I would point out that and then it also shows road and bridge levy. That's the Homer Township Road District's redistributed property tax. Just a pie chart of the allocation of the general fund revenues. We provided this bar chart for the past several years. It shows a nice steady incline in the sales tax. Our fiscal 25 sales tax is up about 3%. We're forecasting about a 2% increase for fiscal 26. Income tax is a per capita tax. We get a certain dollar amount per resident. When we forecast that revenue, we use the Illinois Municipal League's cost factors, also showing a steady increase. I like this schedule. This is how much we get in per capita per resident. Income tax, we get $178 per resident. It's up about 4%. The state use tax is about $19.60. It's down 54%. The state overpaid municipalities from fiscal 22 and 23, and they're clawing back revenues. So we're seeing a dramatic decline in use tax. Hopefully in a year or two, They will finish with their true up and clawback, and we'll start to see that number go back up. The cannabis tax we don't have a dispensary here. This is the state per capita amount for all cannabis stores that's redistributed back to municipalities. We get $1.66 per resident. There's 2 motor fuel taxes that we get from the state. This is not the local. And collectively, they're around $25 per resident. So all total, $244 per resident, down about 5.4% for the year. It generates almost $6 million of revenue per year. These are all the initiatives. A lot of them are repeats, so I'm not going to go over the repeats. I'm just going to kind of touch on the new stuff. So. I did want to point out that legal is, we're going to probably see a slight decline in legal expenses because we won't incur we already had the collective bargaining agreement settlement. So we anticipate a small decline from the actual that we incurred in '25. And then under public safety, our largest single line item, we do subcontract public safety here. We just received the cost estimate for next year. It's not an estimate, it's an actual. Is a 3.75% increase, which actually is really excellent. When you factor in all the various, there's probably 4 or 5 different union agreements, the pension costs, to get contracted sheriff services for that kind of increase, we're very pleased. I initially thought it was going to be around 5, but it came in quite a bit lower than that.
John, I'm going to pause you for 1 second.
Yes.
So before we get too far ahead, how do you want to proceed? If a trustee has a question, would you like him to stop you at the?
Yes, please.
Okay, so
yes.
I believe Trustee Fialko had a question on maybe the previous two slides ago, or maybe one. Trustee Fialko,
Okay.
did you have a question?
Just on this page, I'm on page 15 of the packet.
Yes.
So under the general fund and major initiatives, it says budgeted $265,000 for legal. I don't remember having that number for legal for last year's fiscal.
We budgeted $150,000 last year. We spent about $275,000.
Okay, but that wasn't what was, but $265,000 wasn't what was budgeted though, is what I'm basically.
No. When I make the comment that we're going to experience a slight decline, it's from actual. We're going to see a decline from the actual. We actually spent more like $270,000 or $275,000.
Okay, so where I got confused is number 3.
Yes, sir.
It's budgeted, it doesn't say actual.
No, I'm sorry.
That's why I was asking. So as far as the recommendations for these numbers, and let's just use legal as the example, when we say a slight decline from the prior year, this is not the number that you're talking about going with then yet, right?
No, we're proposing a budget amount of $265,000 for legal.
Oh, you are? Okay.
And it's slightly down from the actual incurred, or the estimated actual incurred for fiscal '25.
Now I get where you went.
Because budget is the best estimate at that time. Sure. Trended data really works off of actual, so that's what we're proposing to do. And I thought, they're going to have a fee increase, but we're probably going to have less services because we had quite a few big things that were not recurring in nature. I'm hopeful on that at least.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
I have a question.
Trustee Consolino.
Yeah, okay, all right, this one, slide 46 is not in our packet, or am I not seeing it? Sorry.
Slide 46 would be the
16?
page.
16.
Page 16.
Yeah, page 16 in the hard copy. I think maybe this is 46 of this whole meeting. This whole meeting is on the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
And what I wanted to touch on there, we did talk about public safety, and we were happy to see that the increase was 3.75%. And then on the other, public works, of course, is very capital intense. We're going to budget $250 for salt. Thank goodness we have a salt dome, because I think we're sitting good. We purchase salt, and we have to buy 80% of our commitment. So I think we'll have we'll have an abundance of salt. We're stuck with it. The other items on there are, there's some update the lighting for the plow trucks, 20 grand, a new dump truck to replace Unit 123, a Ford F-350 to replace Unit 102, a mowing tractor to replace a 2005 unit. There's a fork and plat for the case skid steer. Number 8's a duplicate, ignore that one. They're requesting a gator to get better access, and there's a $20,000 for a shoring box to be OSHA compliant. And the last public works item there is a scanner plotter. With these items, they're very significant in nature. We like to defer them at least to the midpoint of the year just to see how the revenues are coming in, or maybe stage them quarterly, 25%. We don't want to spend all this in the first quarter and find out our revenues are not going to be matching. So they're place setters. Almost all of them are over the $30,000 state bid limit, so the board will be engaged in the vote and the further approval of these purchases. And then Trustee Mason had mentioned the message boards. So we budgeted $75,000 for some a message board at EMA, which is pending grant approval, so it'll be a net zero cost to the village. Under the other category, our IT services needs are growing, in particular with the cyber issues. So we have about $90,000 for software and cyber-related matters.
Can I ask you a question, John?
Sure.
You had mentioned number 9 was $17,000 for a gator in addition to the fleet for better access to.
Well, I was told by the Public Works Director that sometimes they have a hard time getting their vehicles or their equipment into certain locations. Joe, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, this is, in certain instances, when they have to go on private properties or access areas that are hard to get to, instead of having the guys walk in with the equipment and tools, this is actually a time and labor savings.
So the gators for actual moving of equipment and whatnot. Okay, thank you.
And this will be shared more than likely with the other departments as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Continuing the other category, we have a $100,000 budget item for roof repair at the Public Works Building, $50,000 for HVAC here at the Village Hall. We once again budgeted $250,000 for contingency. That's really just a hedge against declining revenues. Keep going, one more. We have a census of our staff for currently at fiscal 25 and also through the end of fiscal 26. It shows one increase in part-time employee, which is pretty good. We're trying to build the support system for the front desk, and it's kind of a starting point for future positions here. A lot of our people that start at the front desk have migrated up out of there. So we'd like to add a part-time person. It'll help with vacations and things like that. I don't really want to go through all of the line items. If you have a question now or later, I'd be absolutely happy to answer them. But there's about 70 pages of data. So I was just going to hit the higher points. It does show 3 years of trended information, shows last year's budget, this year's budget. So there's a lot of good information from a trending standpoint. So certainly if we want to give me a ring or Lisa a ring, we can answer any of your questions that you might have later.
You did as much Doge as possible, right?
Right.
You went through every single line item to make sure that we can get rid of any extra spending, right?
That's ours.
So most budgeting is done based on actual trends. What you find chronically is that department heads want to rebudget what they budgeted before, even if they didn't spend it. We really work for trends. We have good trust with staff in that if an item was 10,000 and they spent 2, let's make it 2. If you needed a 10 in a year or 2, we will do that. But you don't want to just spend for fear that you're going to lose that line item in the future. I'm a big believer in that. So most of the budget is based on actual trends, And then we sit with the department heads, ask what they need, and try to dial it in.
Yeah, I think the roof repair on Public Works is a good example. That was initially estimated at $250,000. We got it for $150,000, but the $250,000 was in the budget. So that's, you know, kind of the same thing as an example of the trends and what we have in there.
And I think too, when you look at the private sector versus municipal, in the private sector, you know, you do try to budget as well. You try to project. And even though you project, you actually go off of actuals. So as you stated earlier, you had to amend. You had $115,000 budgeted for legal expense, but it was $270,000 actual spent. But yet you're budgeting now based on realistic, real-time information down by 5,000. So I understand that completely.
Yeah, and you need buy-in, you know, and we have it, because we really, you know, we want everybody to have what they need. But when they want to keep what they don't need, it really hurts everybody else. So that's why I wanted to thank everybody, because it's a really good, fair process that we work through. Lisa's going to do the next two funds.
Okay.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I'm looking, going through this, and I'm getting down to park facilities. I see 0, 0, 0, 0 all the way across.
Right here.
Well, you know, sometime this fiscal year, we're going to try to amend the SOP for the fund accounting policy and sweep the park maintenance department, the park fund maintenance department, over into the general fund, along with the local motor fuel tax. And the reason we want to do that is because the local motor fuel tax only covers half of the maintenance cost. So we don't want it to absorb any of the park fund surpluses. Now, this budget, what we did in lieu of that, we're going to transfer 500, so local motor fuel tax is $500,000 of revenue. The park maintenance department, park fund maintenance department is $1 million, so they're short 500,000. We're going to transfer $500,000 out of the general fund over to the park fund so that it doesn't use any of the equity that it currently has. So it'll be neutral. It'll have enough money to offset the expense.
I was aware of that, because we had talked about that before. So I'm aware of that, but I was just wondering, is there a reason why there's just nothing?
Well, I actually I did it a couple years ago and it failed. But I think when we do it, when I come forward with the shell is built for it to migrate over.
Okay.
I just need the board to approve the amendment to the SOP for fund accounting, the fund policy.
Okay.
Once it's done, and quite honestly, it's neutral right now this year, so it's really going to be an endeavor for the next fiscal year, fiscal 26, 27. Because the general fund has other revenues to absorb the costs. The park fund doesn't. It only has the local motor fuel tax.
Right.
So, I mean, ideally, when that was imposed, you know, with the park maintenance was like 300,000 or 200,000. So it made sense, you know, but it doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay.
So if the MFT funds, may I?
The local motor fuel?
Yes, if that was to go back up, this sweep of the $500,000 is just for this year. It's not intended to be permanent.
That's correct.
Okay, so, and I remember it being voted down before the sweep that was trying to be done. I don't remember the details of it, and I don't remember why it was voted down. But it's generally frowned upon to sweep money from one thing to another. And, I mean, we don't see it often enough to know the details of that, but maybe you could explain it to us why it's frowned upon sometimes?
We do sweeps all the time here. Sweeps actually are good because in Homer Glen's particular case, sweeps are good because it means that primarily why we do a sweep is because there's more money in the fund than the fund policy allows. So like the general fund. At the A&F, we're going to come forward with a proposal to sweep $3 million of the general fund into the park fund and the capital project fund because There was a $3 million surplus from fiscal '25, and if you let it sit there, it'll be more than the fund balance maximum, defined maximum balance.
Okay, can we use the example of when it got voted down as to why you think it got voted down at that time then?
I think it was bad timing. I had a brand-new board, and I wasn't able to spend enough time to clarify what we were trying to achieve.
Okay.
And I think that's what happened. And it really just needed more support from just to explain what we're trying to do. I think it was just that.
And that was in 2021, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
A lot of it was too, I think the major objection to it was that everybody thought that the motor fuel tax was going to go into the Public Works Department. That's what everybody was worried about. They were worried about that the motor fuel tax was going to go, because it was going into the general fund, that it was going to fund the new Public Works Department.
So there was not an appetite to make the change. The draft had the change. The final didn't. It was removed.
Right.
And it was set back to the way it was. So the board never really rejected anything. It went forward the way it always had been, because there wasn't an appetite to make that change at that time.
But I remember that was a big discussion, that people thought that it was going to supply the Public Works Department with more money.
So for clarification, the sweep just never transpired. It didn't happen because they didn't vote for it.
Correct.
Yeah, it didn't.
That's correct.
So what happened to the surplus?
Well, this is different. We're talking about changing our policy to move a department out of one fund over to another fund.
Got it.
The equity sweeps that we do, that we've traditionally done, is what funds our capital projects and our parks. So there's two different things, right? But I really kind of blame it on not educating it. It was like April. It was right around this time, and I had a brand new board coming in, and I just wasn't able to get the message out correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't do it. We just rescinded on it.
Maybe you did a good job and they didn't take it in. I'm just kidding, John.
No.
But I think the Doge part that was mentioned comes afterwards. You can
Yeah,
always, the
after.
department can always ask for money, like you're probably familiar with. But at that point, when it gets in front of the board, that's when you Doge or not Doge. So, I mean, even though the budget's here, doesn't mean, just like with this last fiscal year, it doesn't mean you spend it all.
Right. You know, I want to remind you that our purchasing policy grants the village manager and the mayor authority up to $30,000. Most of this budget, these budget initiatives are over that, and they're going to require board approval. So it is really, in many cases, it's a place setter for needs that we feel are appropriate.
Understood.
Okay. Lisa, your turn.
All right, so next we have the Homer Fest Fund. This fund was established in 2013 and has an estimated beginning cash balance of $222,781. This is from past surpluses from previous fests. Our budgeted revenues are $278,539, and our budgeted expenses are $291,039, leaving an estimated cash balance of $210,281. So the following slides show detailed projections of revenues. As you can see from the festival and the sponsorship, that's where that number comes from. And then our expenses.
May I ask a question about that? Because it's Homerfest, near and dear to me. The expenses from the sheriff's office had gotten expensive. It was $28,000 the one year, then we were adding in employees' time. Being that we swept employee time or took care of it through that sweep, could we not do the same thing and make it so employee time does not go towards Homerfest on paper, I guess, and do some type of sweep, just like we're doing with parks, to make it a little bit in line with what we're doing with parks. And then the second part of that, the sheriff's contract is up. We're supposed to see it at A&F at this next meeting on the 16th, and I wanted the sheriff's contract to include Homerfest in there as part of the contract. I had asked for that. I don't know if I'm going to get that far or I'm going to be there on that day. If it's on the 16th, I'll be there on that day, but I don't imagine it'll be signed, sealed, and delivered, but that was the intention. So I just think with our changes in the way we're budgeting things, that may be two things that we need to look at for Homerfest, where it makes it a little easier to work.
So the Homerfest Fund has a minimum, maximum fund balance also?
Yeah.
And I think it's 60,000.
Yep, it is.
You know, so it's pretty solvent. I can never recall a fest that didn't break even in its duration. So it's continued to grow over the years. But if we had a horrendous year, or several in a row, it would be eligible for a sweep. You don't need to do a sweep now. You're already over the maximum fund balance. So, and quite honestly, it might just get absorbed.
I forget which SOP governs that $60,000 that's kept in there. Is it 2? I know, you're right. It's been a while. I forgot which one. It's SOP 2. Maybe, to me, it almost seems like if Homerfest is bringing in and making a little bit of money every year, it almost seems like that should be kind of like in their account kind of thing. And that way it leaves a little more flexibility to say, okay, look at how good we did. Why shouldn't we be able to get a better band this one year or something? I'm just saying with that SOP 2, it's never been explained to me why it's capped at 60,000 and then they have to ask for the money every year.
I'm not sure it is. I'm going to backtrack on that. I'll let you know tomorrow. I don't think it has a maximum fund balance. I think it has a minimum fund balance because of that.
That's probably true.
I don't think this Fest Fund has a maximum fund balance.
We'll take a look at it.
It has a minimum, though. Minimum might be 30.
Whatever we can do to fix it, to make it better.
Yeah, I'll let you know, but I mean, if it doesn't have a max, we're...
Sure. Let's take a look at it, see what it is, and if we can make it easier for whoever's running Homerfest, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I do have some questions. It says community festival expenses. I'd like to see a breakdown of what all of the expenses are at some point. I know that's going to be a lot of work. I'd like to see because I know some of the department heads had some concerns that some of their expenses for the festival had to come out of their pockets. And so I'd like to see that broken down.
I think it already went through the Fest Committee. Pretty sure it already went through the Fest Committee.
Didn't we approve?
We do that.
Yeah, we got
All the expenses?
That's available, oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
It came to the board, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came to the board.
No, I'm talking like a packet of, I have never seen a festival committee packet that's explained every single expense.
Yeah. Yeah,
When?
we have that.
When did we do that?
We presented it at one of the meetings.
When we approved the budget.
It's the basis for...
Yeah, I'd like to see it because per some director heads that had concerns, I guess I'd like to compare what their
We got that.
concerns are. Okay.
The director that had the concern was from labor, right? And absorbing the labor?
No.
Coming from it?
No.
Or-
That was mine way back in the beginning.
Okay.
And can I just ask one other thing? So the 60,000, that's what's in the fund because it's there if something happens with the fest, that's your cushion.
I was backtracking. I don't think there is a maximum fund balance.
Okay.
I think there's a minimum fund balance where if you had several bad years and it dropped under it, it would trigger a sweep to refund it.
Right.
To reestablish the funds and continue forward.
But the idea that if you have a bad year, 60,000 like years ago was a good number, it does have to come up.
I don't think there's a limit, which means that's terrific. Let's keep making successful festivals and watch the balance grow.
Okay.
Right. And a minimum is a minimum, and that's when you're in a danger zone.
That's
so.
correct.
Right, that's when you're in a danger zone, that's when you need to do the sweep and refund the account. But otherwise, you could do, as Trustee Stylin's stating, if we have a couple successful ones in the, over the next couple of years, we could raise it to 80, 90, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Environment.
Okay, so our next fund is the Environment Fund. We've got an estimated beginning cash fund balance of $133,950. Our budgeted revenues are $47,800, and our expenses are $38,450, leaving an estimated cash balance of $143,300. The following slides show the detailed projections of revenues with the environmental surcharge for our revenue. And then you can see the expenditures with the conservation event being the biggest one. It's, well, pretty much the biggest one. So that alternates yearly between the shredding event and the household hazardous waste. I know we just had the shredding event, and the household hazardous waste is coming up in September. And these are rebudgeted initiatives from last year.
Okay, the next one is the water management. It's relatively new. It's the sanitary sewer line. This is an enterprise fund, so in accounting terms, it has to be self-sufficient. It starts the year with $190,000, which was primarily from the recapture fee and the tap-on fee from the one user on the line. So as that area develops, we'll start to see this fund get quite well-funded, actually, because it's pretty costly to tap on. It has a revenue of $70,000 with expenses of $137,000. We expect to end the year at $123,000. Of course, we have the user fee as the only revenue. And then we have the fee that we pay based on consumption for processing and some maintenance items. Okay. MFT is a quasi-special revenue because we bring motor fuel taxes in. It has to be spent on qualified IDOT expenses. It also is a capital project fund because we have the 151st Street widening project in there. We'll start the year with approximately $3.5 million. We have revenues of approximately $3.2 million, expenses of $6.7 or $8 million, and we anticipate finishing the year with a cash and investment balance of $43,000. The revenues are the two different motor fuel taxes that we collect. They're both per capita revenues. We have some grant money for 80% reimbursement on the Phase 2 engineering and investment income for a total of $3.2 million. And then we have approximately $6 million of cost for the 151st Street widening project. It's the entire cost, today's estimated entire cost of that project. It could go several years out. I like to budget these things so that we don't duplicate these resources for or we don't over-obligate ourselves. So that concludes the MFT fund. Home rule sales tax is the 1% that we bring in. It's approximately $4 million per year. We start the year with about $1.8 million, bring in home rule sales tax of $4 million. The fund, according to our SOP number 2, our fund accounting policy, allows us to transfer money into the general fund, the capital project fund, or the park fund. Those are the 3 designated transfers, and we anticipate ending the year with about a $3.4 million balance.
I have a question. Now, didn't we lose that?
Pardon?
Didn't we lose the 1% home rule tax
No.
from Pritzker?
No.
No, just something totally different.
The grocery, okay.
The grocery tax is going to go away January 1st of 26.
2026, okay.
Sales tax
It's not going away, it's being redistributed.
Yeah, that's correct.
Reallocate it.
Board decision.
The impact on that is there's a 90-day arrears period on sales tax, so If we sat by and did nothing, which I don't think any community is going to do, it would impact the sales tax in April of '26, which is our last month of our fiscal year. So we have some time to react to this.
Which it typically generates somewhere around $700,000 for the village.
Yeah.
And actually, I had in a meeting with a bunch of other Will County managers and mayors yesterday regarding the grocery tax, and we're going to roll that out after we prepare a statement and try and pass that through all the different municipalities at the same time. So that's the status of that. Sometime probably in August.
Okay.
Okay, Park and Recreation Fund. This has two designated revenues currently, the 3-cent locomotive fuel tax and developer contributions, like we heard tonight, cash in lieu. We're anticipate starting the year with $5.6 million cash in investments. We have budgeted revenues of $2.1 million, and budgeted expenses of about $5.7 million, which will result in an ending cash and investment balance of about $2.1 million. Next one is the revenues, $500,000 of locomotive fuel tax that I discussed earlier. Small amounts, that's relatively low developer contributions, because a lot of times they give you land, and then interest income. This one has, we have the full cost of the latest phase of Heritage Park improvements, which is the Veterans Memorial, the water feature, and the pavilion. Current estimated cost, $3.2 million. And then we have some bike trails for about $500,000, Old Oak Park improvements, which is also going to be partially grant funded, total cost of $475,000, less $146,832 in Will County ARPA funds. We have a place setter for other park improvements. We've been doing this for several years. Seems to be helpful as the year goes on. We have some maintenance costs for trail connection, tennis court maintenance, pond maintenance. There is a place setter for a mower and seal coating the trails. Grand total, $4.8 million of budget initiatives. Capital Project Fund. This really doesn't have a designated revenue. It received all of its money from equity sweeps, which is pretty impressive, $25 million. That's pretty good. Budgeted revenues are $4.6 million, and budgeted expenses are $18.2 million, which includes the wastewater treatment plant in its entirety. So we would anticipate, if that was to get fully funded and built, which it won't, we would end the year at $12.1 million. These are all the various initiatives in the Capital Project Fund. $10.7 million for the wastewater treatment, Fetterman Creek, $2.1 million. The road resurface program will be a recurring item in this fund. It's $1.2 million, and that is because of the sizable 151st widening project. That's tapping out all our MFT money. So we had to move the road resurface program into the Capital Project Fund. We have some other road work like the Bell Road sidewalk. We have the park plan for Heritage Park in its entirety, 783. I think the current phase is about 240,000. So we rebudgeted the streetlight retro program at 290,000. A few years ago, approximately 3 years ago, we took a position that capital equipment in excess of $100,000 with more than a year of duration was going to be funded through the Capital Project Fund. So we have a full-size plow to replace a 1999 unit for $280,000. We have another plow to replace a 2000 unit, also $286,000. We rebudgeted the town center financial analysis estimate, $150,000. There's a place setter for a pole barn, $150,000. I think there's also a mini excavator to replace an older unit, $120,000. there's a typo on 13, but transportation plan engineering is about 107,000, and some other various sidewalk, street work, for a grand total of 18.1 million.
John?
Yes.
Could you go back one?
Sure.
The full-size truck, 8 and 9, those have already been allocated towards a purchase, correct? As far as I remember?
About 2 or 3 years ago, the board approved 2 full-size plows, and they were encumbered and expensed 2 or 3 years ago. And the fund balance has been reserved for them. Half of the trucks are built, and they're going to be coming in soon.
Right.
These are 2 more trucks.
I think that...
Now, there's a multi-year tail on these, so we're putting them in this year's budget. They may not be in till...
Well, I don't remember the director coming to us for these 2, but I know we were delayed because of COVID, then we had other delays, and because we couldn't order them, the price of them went up to this price, and we had to reapprove them. So I'm thinking these are I believe these are the 2 we've already approved.
They're not.
So that does look like the price you're talking about in A&F.
Yeah.
You're talking about in A&F, and I think that was prior to. I don't know if these are in addition to because of the new costing, because of that's where we're at.
These are in addition to those.
Yeah. Well, just to this board too, I think it's really important with what we inherited from the township and what we had. We've been on this continuous process to kind of replace 1 or 2 a year. And I think we should always do that for a couple reasons. The technology on these trucks changes every year. The technology changes. So even if you don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're buying 10 trucks at one time. So that pace of 1 or 2 a year really seems to, if we hadn't been delayed, I think we were right on target with keeping our Public Works Department supplied with plows.
Yeah, the 2 trucks from a couple years ago are probably going to be coming in this year, and these 2 trucks will probably come in next year.
4 years.
3 years from now.
Or 2 years from now. But I do like encumbering them. From a financial standpoint, I like that. And then Lisa will handle the tree replacement fund.
So the next fund is the tree replacement fund. That's going to have an estimated beginning cash balance of $60,077. Our budgeted revenues are $9,500, and our budget expenses are rebudgeted from last year in the amount of $55,000, leaving an estimated cash balance of $14,577. As the balances in this fund decline, we're going to be looking to migrate the tree replacement and arborist line items to the general fund, as many other communities do. So that would be the $50,000 line item and the arborist for $5,000.
The last fund is the capital project fund. This is the fund established from the 2012 bonds. And it was restricted for 3 different uses. And I think there's really only for the water transmission line acquisition and it's 159th expansion and stormwater. Now we're kind of left with stormwater, and that's where we've been funding approximately $2 million worth of work per year. We're going to start the year with about $4.6 million in cash and investments. We have investments. We no longer have a designated revenue for this. And the budgeted expenses are about $2.6 million, leaving a balance of $2.1 million. So if you roll forward another fiscal year, that will probably be the last year that the bonds from 2012 fund stormwater improvement, and you'll see a stormwater improvement line item in the capital project fund. And then this slide just represents the projects that were being bid for stormwater improvement. So, general fund, our report card fund, shows a operating surplus of $7,306. It's a balanced budget. Overall revenues and transfers of $29.8 million. Overall budgeted expenses and transfers of $52.9 or $53 million, which obviously includes 3 sizable multi-year projects. And if that was all to occur in the next fiscal year, we would still end the year with $26 million in cash and investments, which shows a really good financial position for the future of Homer Glen.
I have a random question. Well, actually, I have two.
Okay.
The expansion of 151st Street, can someone remind me where it starts and ends? I know Bankston, in front of Bankston's. What, is it Cedar to?
Cedar to
Bell?
Bell Road.
Okay, I just want to make sure. And then, second random question, if there was a possibility to purchase 143rd Street, where would those funds come from?
The capital project
Capital
fund.
project.
What was your question? Say that again?
If, capital IF, we were to consider purchasing 143rd Street, not saying it's going to happen, not saying I had any discussion with anyone, but if there was an opportunity and the board so chose, the funds would come from the capital project fund.
Yeah, you really need to look at that because of the maintenance costs and the resurface costs and
yeah.
things of that nature. You would look at everything.
Right, 100%. The question was I wanted to know where it would come from.
You're talking the maintenance of it or the purchase of it?
Purchase of the actual road.
You think that they would charge, I mean, they didn't charge us for Hadley Road, right?
I don't know if you were at the few meetings that it was discussed, but I was accused of being offered it at this time and for this cost. There was just so much lies and chaos out there that I just want to reiterate, prior to the lawsuit, we had a meeting, you might have been there, and the question was, why don't you just buy the road? And there was a cost that was affiliated with buying the road.
That's a number I never heard.
$6 million was the minimum price they wanted for it.
Maybe John can, there is another way of doing things without raising taxes, without taking it through the, is bond
Yeah.
issue. I don't know if we could do a bond issue on that if it came down to it, instead of, because that's all temporary.
Well, that's why I was asking about the expansion of 151st Street, and then you said the bond that we had from 2012 was allocated to certain projects.
You know, quite honestly, I think you're going to end up bonding out the wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
I just don't know if that's a wise thing to do. Even though you can buy it, you can pay for it, I'm not sure it taps you out. But the Village of Homer Glen is always a prime candidate for bonds because of its unobligated home rule sales tax. So the 2012 was a general obligation bond with an alternate revenue backing of a home rule sales tax. So it created the abatement, because a GO bond potentially has citizen, resident exposure, right? It could, if it fails, it can go on them. But we back it with an unobligated revenue and get the best rates available. So, I mean, for the next several years, they're always going to be a good candidate for that. We'll get a terrific bond rating.
I guess my question is, if
you do that.
If that were to come about, again, the bare minimum was $6 million just to give them the money back. It could be 20 million. I have no idea, because the discussion stopped once the lawsuit was filed.
Right, because they're saying
So-
that's what they have invested.
Right, so would the village be able to afford just the purchase alone? I understand maintenance and expanding, but would the village be able to afford another purchase of that high of a number?
Well, with bonds, you can structure the repayment however you want. The further out you go, the higher the rates on the bonds, because you sell individual bonds. You just don't, it's not like a mortgage. You sell a series of bonds that have maturities. And if you want to spread the risk, you want to go out further, but the further out you go, the more expensive.
Right.
Today, yes, you could do that.
I'm just saying, could for
things
Boo-
surface that make things, we have a lot of resources, now we fund road resurface out of capital project. We're going to have to fund our stormwater sewer out of capital project.
Yes.
So these are big items that you're going to have more of them over time. So, and there is no really revenue stream for designated revenue for capital projects. It's just that we've done so well. But that was like pre-Public Works Department time, right? So, we're bigger now. We don't have the same, we probably won't have the same luxury of sweeping millions of dollars over to the capital project every year.
But because the reason I'm asking is because
today,
Boo, we had money in the bank.
Yeah, I mean,
just to go purchase.
You could absolutely do it in the current financial state that we are in.
Yeah, it still shows that we have the revenue there to do it.
I wanted
But I
it
think what
stated
John's,
publicly.
right, and I think what John's trying to get at is if we take that upon ourselves and we decide, hey, here's $6 million, it's not the end of it.
No.
And this continues, and then it comes out of capital expenditure funds, and eventually that capital expenditure fund won't be there because there's nothing feeding it.
So where are you going to pay your road surface is coming out of there, your stormwater work's coming out of there, and you have a sizable balance in there right now, and it's out pretty far, but that's a big endeavor, and it chops the years of the capital projects funding capability.
I guess I want an explanation, not right now, not today, but if residents are asking for a lot. They're asking for big parks, like for us to purchase a road, wastewater, attorney battles to fight different lawsuits. And it's a lot of money. And I just want the residents to understand that this money isn't just picked off the trees. It comes from somewhere. And if they want something, we have to decide what's most important. What's our main focus is. And yes, 143rd Street is very important. But I guess I would like to know, it's not like something I could just go and write a check for and be like, here you go, Will County, because we still have to maintain it, fix it, expand it. There's so many other things that come along with it. And I don't even know what the dollar cost, what the dollar amount is in the end. But that's all and then I wanted to ask you, you said we're in great standing. I want to emphasize that. This year compared to last year and the year before, what was the progression or where's the decrease?
Well,
what have you
we're
seen?
looking at approximately the same size of an equity sweep, meaning the results from fiscal 25 were very good as they were in fiscal 24 and fiscal 23.
So we're not just spending money like crazy and
realize,
right.
Investment income was $1 million. I was getting 5.25% on the money. Now it's going to be 3.25%, 3.5%. That's $300,000 reduction. We had to fund the shortage in the park maintenance fund. So I don't think fiscal 26 is going to create the surpluses that we've seen. I do expect one, but I don't think it's going to be what we're used to seeing. I think we were spoiled. Not we weren't spoiled, we were fortunate, but I don't think that is going to be, those same kind of numbers are going to be the future because we're funding more. The general fund's going to be asked to fund more.
So as our professional, our bean counter, our money guy, we are being fiscally responsible with the way we spend money.
I think the numbers show that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the mayor's just trying to make sure that she's being transparent that, yes, we have been fiscally responsible and, we're sitting in a good position, but we do have to make sure that we watch how we, dilute our expenditures as we move forward. Because as you state, John, it's not always going to be, how we've had it in the past where the growth may not be the same.
Well, we're getting bigger. We're becoming a more mature community. We're 25 years oldish, right? So, and we're growing, and costs grow with that.
And John, can you go through, just explain a little bit more about the park maintenance fund, why it was depleted, even though the 3.5 cents motor fuel tax was there?
Well, the park expansion. Not to mention, when we started out, this was a field. This wasn't even being cut. Right, when the park fund was established in the local motor fuel tax. And then it got, then it grew out. And I remember Joe and I were talking, it was $3,500 a week to cut that out there. So our parks maintenance program's gotten significantly larger, and the costs grew with that. It maintains a lot more parkland.
Does anybody
and they do
know
a good job.
The total, so go ahead.
What were you going to say, the total of the parks that we took on?
What was the total number?
What was it, Sue? Was it 80, we said it's costing us 88,000 additional year for the additional parks?
We don't have,
Maintenance?
I don't think we have an exact figure, but
I'd be curious.
but we were
It's somewhere
starting
around there, because I've had this conversation with Jen Vittori, and it's basically costing us for the additional parks. And now you have to, and like John is saying, you have to take into consideration all the mowing that we have to do in every single one of these parks.
And replacements and repairs.
And the repairs.
Sports field is a big one.
We're very fortunate because Jennifer Vittori is trained in almost every aspect of what our parks need. She's trained in the playgrounds, safety, the maintenance, the repair. She's the arborist, so she's actually really saving us a lot of money by and she cross-trains all of her employees, so all of her employees are able to do the same thing that she does. So, I mean, to say, yeah, that, we have to put this into the general fund because it's depleting the maintenance portion, but yet we really haven't spent a dime on anything new.
No, but it's the maintenance.
It's the maintenance. It's the maintenance that is.
No different than
yeah.
143rd. You have an initial cost or initial
Maintenance,
expenditure, and then it's the upkeep, and as John states, the village is growing, it's getting bigger, there's more to maintain, there's resurfacing,
And I mean, and you know what? And also, for the record, what I'd like to say is that what most people don't understand, one park is now between $400,000 and $475,000. That's one park, and that's not even a huge park.
So that goes back to earlier today, though. Not every subdivision needs a park, because before you know,
Exactly.
you're
That's
gonna
why
be
we're
burned
saying,
out.
right.
All your expenditures are gonna go towards
That's
parks.
what-
So
that's what
I
we're
think that needs further examination as to where I don't know. It'd be nice to have a full count of the parks now. I know we have a count. I just
We
don't
have
know.
16 parks,
The total?
totals.
How many?
16 parks.
16.
Okay, so as a village board, we need to figure out how many parks do we want in our community?
Right.
We have to take care of, the area and provide the parks, yes.
Well, there's a park plan.
But does every piece of property, like you said today, getting money to put towards, or to improve another park would even be
Exactly,
better?
because that's where
Not
we're
that
at
we're not absorbing that money under the agreement when a subdivision is built, but maybe not necessarily building a brand-new park, taking that money and reinvesting it in other parks that need maintenance.
And one of the things that, we talked with Janie too, and this is something, that goes toward our budgets as well, is, we talked about the fact that, when you have all these parks and, you're looking, I lost my train of thought now after you started talking.
If you're talking about what we discussed with Janie, I think it was that we may consider changing.
Yes, there you go, thank you.
Okay, keep
We were,
going.
we were considering changing the PUD because, and that's like a double-edged sword because of the fact that if you change the PUD where a developer has to give us a park, they have to pay for it. The problem is if they form a HOA, they're not gonna want anybody from anywhere else coming in and using their park. So it's like
We got that now, and there are parks.
Right, I know, and it's a double-edged sword.
Hold on here.
But even if we were talking about this park over at the new park that they want
He took
over,
those signs out of the north.
Yeah, I was just actually talking to somebody about this. We may want to look at the way our formula for calculating what we
Exactly.
get for the parks
yeah.
and base it more on maybe property values and not something
I
else.
don't even know if it's even property values though, Joe, because of the fact that we know what a park costs us. A park starts between $400,000 and $475,000.
We just paid for one. We just paid $250,000.
You're looking at the subdivision where they're selling $900,000 homes.
Yeah.
And we're
So there
adding
should
2 or
be-
3 homes
right.
to that subdivision.
Yeah.
For that developer, he's gonna say, sure, I'll give you whatever you want.
Exactly.
For that $90,000, $52,000.
Yeah.
That's a drop in the bucket
Janie's idea
for them.
with
And
addressing.
if you were to look at the cost or the value of the homes and the property values of what they're selling and base it on that, you can get a lot more.
Because we're gonna run into this, we're gonna run into this again with Dunn Farm. We're gonna-
So we do, you're right, we are going to run into it again with Dunn Farm, and you're right, and I think my thought process is changing slightly too, because we do have to fund this and we have to be responsible.
We do.
But you made a statement about the HOAs, and which is a good one. If the village owns them, they own them. Anybody is able to go to any park. We have one big, beautiful park, we're sitting right behind it. We have a beautiful park. There are 16. I didn't realize, I was thinking there was like 12-ish. There's 16 parks throughout the, so you're right. Maybe we need to start looking and being responsible and putting money away to maintenance these parks. I want to make it clear though, nobody's ever kicked anybody out of a park. Now, you may not own those ponds. Unless you want to take over my pond, which we maintenance and take care of and pay for, Then come on in, we'll give you that too.
I wasn't referring to yours, I was referring more.
I'm making sure. I saw
there's
I
other
saw a little
parks.
trustee smiling over there.
Stonebridge usually is the one that we get all the complaints about, so, but I'm sorry, we got off topic, John, but I
Yeah,
just
sorry,
wanted to
John, you're
make
doing
that
great.
clear.
I saw that it's over. Motion to adjourn? No, what happened?
I got.
Motion to adjourn.
He said, just because it came up, we don't want to raise taxes. That's always
No.
been the premise. In finding alternatives to do this, we're on the right track when we're talking like this. But as a last resort, bonds, when we talked about bonds, do all bond issues have to go to a referendum or not?
No, we're home rule, so we don't have to go to
So
referendum.
you don't, okay. That's something, we've never done bonds before.
That's why.
Yeah, we have.
We did.
With
No, they
Not while I
were
was here.
authorized.
He's
in
saying,
25.
he's saying it doesn't have to go in front of the board, but yes, they have done them. The village has done them.
Wait, hold on, excuse me, point of order, let John clarify, because
Yes,
before
I'm
we
just
go any
saying, since
further.
we were here, I don't remember us doing anything to do with bonds.
Well, when we became home rule, we shortly thereafter sold bonds.
Right, that was
There was no
before-
referendum required, because we're home rule. It was very difficult because the home rule stream hadn't existed at that point, but we pledged future revenue, and it was a GO bond that was alternate revenue back, home rule back. That's what your next bond issue will be here, whatever it is, it'll be that status.
Well, what I guess my point with that is, you know, if you have to struggle and you have to do bonds for anything, that's a last resort too, but it's temporary, it's not on your taxes permanently, is what I'm getting at. And not that you want to do that, but I mean, we're talking about, like you said, we've got a lot of expenditures coming up, roads and other things with water and parks, and so some of that's gonna have to be worked out one way or the other, so. Thank you, John. The other thing is, on the fund, Gio was kind enough to pull SOP2 for us.
Oh, good.
And SOP2 is the suggested maximum fund balance is $60,000.
In the home rule, in the.
Under 12, under,
12?
I don't, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It suggested minimum is 30,000. So you got 30 and 60.
We should lift the ceiling on that when we amend the SOP2 for the park maintenance, because I think you would all be in favor of that. It doesn't make sense to have a ceiling on that. I don't think.
Agreed. So SOP needs work. SOP2.
Yeah.
Well,
That's page 3 of 11.
Amended.
All right, with that being said, John and
I'll make the
Lisa.
motion.
You did a fantastic job, I appreciate it.
Thank you, John and Lisa.
Yes, thank you. And Lisa, both you guys.
I thank for all of John's years of service that he's given to the village and all the awards he has on the outside of his door. We are very fortunate to have you as our financial director. You are able to take layman terms and deliver them to us so we understand and not use that
Us uneducated
financial
people.
language that's a little more complicated. So I thank you for that, John. And Lisa.
And Lisa, thank you, Lisa. I know you have great teacher in front of you, so all the tutelage that he can provide, fantastic. You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Do we need to go in exec? I have nothing. All right, so we don't need to go in exec. I would like trustee Fialco and trustee Consolino to make the motion.
To adjourn.
So moved.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
So trustee Consolino, trustee Fialco, second. All in favor?
Nay.
Nay. I say nay.